So hey, there's rocks. So we gotta have.
There's so many of us that can't be avoided.
Yeah.
I don't take it as a bad thing. I mean, it. Like I said, it is what it's going to be.
All new series from miniature
but
building.
What's good about it is
the leader
that
in tabletop gaming scene.
It really is.
Unique, flexible, and playable.
So Jay, is there a way that I can actually see your camera? Because all I see is the main channel up in the top left.
He will come back again once the intro is done.
Well, you should be able to see all of us. Is he saying you don't see any of the rest of our video feeds?
No, I can see all of you guys.
Are you on the browser? Are you on in Zoom? You should be seeing the Twitch broadcast.
Yeah, because Jay, you replace your video, your webcam with
but when you're not streaming the the intro credits and stuff, I see all of us on your screen, and you're like the size of my thumbnail.
Okay.
That's the problem with Jay's approach, is that he hides it in like a little pixelated.
Well, normally my guys complain that I'm too big on the screen.
No, but you're tiny. Yeah. I'm so glad I met you, Jay. That way I know what you look like. So, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I understand that. There's a way to put to highlight one of the screens up top to make it bigger.
Yeah.
And
that way I usually have it, because then you become a little bit bigger. So then you're like 8 pixels instead of 4. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
He's stuck in the 80s in more than one way.
I am stuck in the 80s. Let me tell you.
Found that out yesterday. Yeah.
I'd love to. You can't. I'm stuck with the Boys of Summer as my theme song. You know what I mean?
With Days of Summer, you should just let him go.
Yeah, you can't look back.
Well, I'm doing the superheroes, and I'm basing it in '85.
Oh, that's awesome. What group are you doing, Will? What team?
They're actually. I'm not going with. It's set in the Marvel universe, but we're going with created heroes.
Oh, okay.
Just in the Marvel universe. I can't merchandise Marvel guys, but I can merchandise our guys. So.
Yeah. 85 is Secret Wars too, so that should be pretty cool.
Yeah, Secret Wars is going on, and I've been looking and going through and doing a lot of research on the different things. I forget what it is. I think it's Marvel Fandom, and you can go by year, and it shows you every book that they release per month. And I can go through and I can say, okay, in this month this was going on, and then in this month that's going on.
I don't know if you can see this over my shoulder right here, but this is actually every single thing that's ever been released for the first Marvel game from TSR.
Yep.
Mostly in print, so I was a collector of that my whole life. I love that stuff.
I gotta say, early in my teens, I
Roxas
probably played way more Marvel than I did D&D. Actually, I had started playing D&D, and then after Marvel came out, man,
I kind of balanced it a little bit. I found like winter time was a D&D time, and summertime was a Marvel time for me. I don't know.
Gotcha.
Seasonal.
Yeah. No, I was just mostly the fellas that I was hanging with at the time. They were bigger comic book nerds than they were D&D heads. So yeah, so we played an awful lot of Marvel back in the day. So.
Marvel. I mean, remember it was in every Dragon magazine. Remember?
Oh yeah.
Marvel File.
Yeah.
In fact, the first Dragon magazine I ever had was the one with Cloak and Dagger in it, which was Dragon magazine number 91.
And they're still, the community is way active. They're still producing all kinds of stuff. Like they just came out with a Shield box set, and they even had the breakdown or the blueprint or whatever the hell you want to call it, so that you can print out and design your own cardboard box to put booklets in and stuff. And,
By community, you mean me, right? Because I do some of that stuff.
Did you do some of that? There you go. Yeah.
A little better,
yeah, that's the unofficial. Whatchamacallit? The Marvel unofficial.
Oops. See, I hit the wrong button.
See, you're always doing that.
I'm always making mistakes.
I was like...
One of my dear friends is out in the audience right now, Cascabelli, and he's been my...
cool.
My long-time Marvel gamer for years. He's absolutely awesome gamer. So
Yeah. No, we're really looking forward to it. We're having a lot of fun putting it together. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, Adam's having a great time too. It's like, listen to this. Does this sound 80 enough? I'm like, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I stuck to all the TSR Marvel or TSR games back then. For me, it was all Star Frontiers and Top Secret and D&D and Marvel, but I never really branched out to. I mean, I have a few things like Middle Earth role playing, but I never really played them much.
Yeah, we played Palladium for a little bit, but you know, it was just a couple of years there where Palladium was kind of a big deal for us, but mostly because there was so much damn stuff in Palladium. They had so many different books and so many different things.
Well, good for Sam. I mean, looks like we're packed with individuals tonight from a lot of different places. I'm glad to hear it. Glad to hear you can catch the stream, man. I know. Hopefully, everyone, got everyone's logo up, and let's see. We'll always go on. We always go on 1 minute early during our Sunday nights and Saturday night shows.
So that's the official start time then.
Yeah, well, it's 7:30 with a 1 minute early start. So. I'm going to stay dark. I think it's working for me. I got my light set up so it's not interfering. So here we go. So, okay, guys. Well, we're going to hop on a little early. Oh, there you go. So, Ann, is Frank on in the airplane?
I'm talking as me. I'm talking as Nightheart Gaming.
Oh,
sorry.
you're talking to Sidney tonight. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, I can't do all that on his computer.
Oh, well. Hey, I'm glad you're on there to chat with everyone. Hey, welcome everyone. Good night. Good morning. Good evening. Oh my God. My brain.
Welcome everybody, and good night. Have a good one.
Just like last night, if you were watching last night, my brain was somewhere else last night. I'm J.K. Lord Gazumba. We have our 4th DM's Roundtable on our 63rd Gabbin. Welcome everyone. Hey, there goes Sean Geek Dice already with a re-up. Thanks, Sean. Really appreciate it. One of the gents who was at the Greyhawk was at Gen Con and played in one of my games. We're gonna throw topics around, and please, we want you to participate. And we would like you all to, get a little, maybe get some information out here that'll help you in your own game. And that's why we kind of like to get some different minds together for these. We have four brand new subjects tonight in our round table. So we're going to start with them with introductions, and let's start with Jimmy. Jimmy.
Oh, golly. Hello, folks. Jimmy Duff here, Duff563 on the channels, but owner operator of Praetor Rejects here on the Twitchverse and the interwebs, YouTube, Twitter, all the fun stuff. We run D&D, mostly 5e stuff. We have just wrapped a Deadlands campaign, so we'll spin that back up probably after the first of the year, and looking at some other platforms, DCC, and who knows what else. And coming up, starting on the 29th of September, we've got 2 shows that'll be doing on Sunday and Wednesdays, a full month of Halloween spooky goodness. And, yeah, so we're going to have some fun with that. We'll chat about it later. But that's who I am. Pleased to meet everybody.
Yes, thank you very much for coming on, Jimmy. We'll also talk about this a little bit later, okay? Well, at the end, we'll show Jimmy is also a great
I'm going to get in trouble for not saying anything.
Partner
oh, my Lord.
with that. So we'll talk about that a little later. We'll go down clockwise of the newbies for Roundtable. Alan, how are you?
Hi, it's Alan Growy here. I'm a Grow Dog and run the Grow Dog's Greyhawk website for, I don't know, most of the last 20 years or so. I'm also a partner and co-founder in Black Glade Publishing, and this is my, second time on the show, Jim?
Yes,
so
we had you in
thank you all for extending the invitation.
Well, Alan, I really appreciate you coming on, and you are, that's it, Osric. If you know, everyone knows that term, Osric. It's a huge thing for, especially for the old school community. So, and hopefully we'll have some of those topics come up tonight as well. Ann, welcome.
Thank you. I am
It's okay. Take your time. A little different.
I'm
I'm
with Nightheart Gaming. I am one of their DMs. I DM an all-women game called Maximum Maidens, and do other things. I also play on some games. I'll be playing with Praetor's Rejects on Sundays for their haunt.
Yay.
That is cool.
Yeah. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Now, believe it or not, this gentleman who's been on a lot of shows is a virgin to the DM Roundtable, Carlos.
Really?
Yes.
I'm a second timer, actually, Jay.
I
I was so
That's what I
unprepared
thought.
the first time that you forgot me.
really.
Hmm.
Jay needs a vacation.
Oh
Yeah,
my
he
gosh.
does. I was
Needs
about
another
to say,
vacation.
I forget lots of stuff, and I was like, really?
I thought
Was
you
that-
were on
was
our
it?
50th show, and
I've been on a round table once
oh
too.
my gosh, I apologize, Carlos. Well,
Buddy.
please introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Carlos A.S. Lysing. I am the owner and lead designer for Castle Entertainment. We do adventure modules with using the Osric system, who is published by Black Blade Publishing, otherwise Alan Growe over there, my good buddy.
Dude, where do I point?
I run a product placement there, of course. I also run a Twitch stream game through my Patreon, which is held usually every Saturday, which is called The First Betrayal. Almost everything I do is set in the world of Greyhawk. And it's my passion. Yeah, it's pretty much who I am and what I do.
And I wanted to say I had the honor of jointly DMing a 2-part session at Gen Con with Carlos, which called Horror in the Hools, which was unbelievably successful and fantastic and a fun time. And I also met Amanda Rue there as well, and that was a fantastic.
I would be remiss to mention that Horror in the Hools, the game that we both jointly DM'd and both jointly produced, will be a future product from Castle Entertainment that we're publishing. We do both PDF and physical copies. You can buy them through either my Patreon, online through Facebook, or through Black Blade Publishing when they're if you meet them at
Awesome.
shows. So you'll be able to actually pick up something from Jay here in the physical copy realm here pretty soon.
First time
I
ever.
expect that to be in 2020.
Thank you so very much, Carlos. Cannot
Yeah,
wait.
and Carlos is probably one of the most prolific Greyhawk writers out there
Yep.
over the history of the setting.
Yep.
You know, Gary, Rob, they might have written a little more than him, but it might not be anybody else.
And it's some great content. And we're going to
Yeah.
talk about. I
You guys
guarantee
can
you.
feel the heat radiating from my face right now.
I guarantee one of my questions will go right. You'll see. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Anna.
Yep. I practically live here, so I get invited, and then I never left. So keep going.
You're trying to escape, but you can't.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I tried to escape, but it's a maze spell or something that Jay. No, I'm
I don't
Anna
believe
B.
that your intelligence is too high. You'd have broken out of there
Okay,
like that.
yeah, I'm Anna B. Meyer, and I'm a professional fantasy cartographer. So I do maps, and I've been working on Greyhawk maps for 20 years now, and I publish them on my website. They're free for download, and I have a patron if you want to send me a little bit of money so I can spend more times doing more Greyhawk work. So, and all the Greyhawk maps are released at Creative Commons, so you can just download them, make your own version, and use them in your game, so to speak. So, but then I also do commission work for Cobalt Press and several other game companies for doing maps for their settings and products too.
And Anna personally, and I want to always say thank you, customizes her maps for my Orderville Greyhawk campaign, and it makes a whole bit of difference, as you see in our streams. So thank you.
If anybody
always.
needs no introduction among us, it should be Anna.
Yeah.
She's, I'm sure anyone who's even remotely conversant with the Greyhawk setting knows her work, and we all adore her.
Absolutely.
And her Patreon is only $5.
There you go. Already
For the
pushing
highest
it.
tier.
So you
For the-
need to
yeah.
go if you
Thank you.
want Greyhawk maps, go become a patron
Yeah.
and Patreon. Yeah, I guess I said it right. Because definitely her maps are the best.
Speaking of who's talking now, Will.
Oh, hello.
Now,
Hi.
Will is the only 4-time returning DM Roundtable individual we have outside of our own group. So, Will, introduce yourself. I want to show a pic.
Okay. Hi, I'm Will DM. I'm with the Wicked Studios LLC, which we have a channel on Twitch. Basically, let's see here. On Mondays, we have our talk show, The Down Roll, with me and Adam on it. And I got to say, it's not. I don't even know what you would call me, but it's like a Batman and Robin sort of thing, and me, of course, being Batman, and we'll have there's actually pictures of Adam dressed as Robin, so he gets to be that part. It's basically both of us are Wicked Studios. So we do the talk show. Essentially, it's role playing in D&D on Monday nights. On Tuesdays is Greyhawk Presents. We're doing Ghosts of Saltmarsh currently. Then after that, I'm going to be taking up and going to the Bone March. And
Nice.
I've decided, I was kicking around for a while with all these new different 5e stuff that's coming out. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to just start wrangling all this stuff and I'm going to put it all back into Greyhawk. So I'm going to take all the adventures out of the Essentials book, and then that's going to be the next round of Greyhawk Presents.
Cool.
So we're going to take that and base that all
Awesome.
in Greyhawk.
Will, at some point, you and I have to speak because I'm running a campaign in Raddick right now. And
there you go.
And it crosses over with Bone March a little bit. Maybe I can give you some of my notes.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
Super cool.
And Wednesdays we do the Tales from a Savage Land, which is Savage Worlds rule set. Both the Greyhawk and the Tuesday and Wednesday shows are on at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Then on Saturdays we have at 2 p.m. Vampire the Masquerade, which is Windy City Kindred. I'm trying to keep all this stuff straight. That's the one that just started up, but we're on episode 4 now. And soon, very soon, we're going to have the, as in soon, maybe in a week, we'll see how production goes. We're going to be launching the Saturday Morning Superheroes, where we're going to be doing the original Marvel superheroes game from TSR back from the 80s. So, and I think I covered everything. If I missed something, oh well.
Oh my gosh! It's just like, well, yes. That was supposed to be at the end of the show, Will.
Oh, my bad.
That was an introduction.
I don't have to do anything at the end. Then.
Well,
I'll just wave goodbye.
That's okay. That's okay. If we run late, we run late. All right, here's the pick I got to show. If I cut someone off, including my own picture, I'm sorry. This is August 26th, 2018. And where do you see this picture? This is our first DM Roundtable. All right, there's me. There's
Look how
Brian.
young we are.
There's Will. There's Mark. And there's that squirrely. This is our Skype problems. Will had to log in twice, so we had a spinning screen in the one corner of the whole show. And we're like, what the heck? You remember that? Look, dude.
Yeah, I remember that.
90 followers. Talking about a year ago, a little over a year ago, our first one. Yeah, and that is where we were. There it is. So there, that's our first one ever. It was Gabbin 13. So Will is the veteran here. Just want to show that you know.
I was at least 10 pounds lighter.
Yeah, we all were. And how far we've come. So thank you all for, thank you all. And we're going to take, we're going to run with some questions that I have and what all the other group has. Keep, think about what you want to ask everyone here and then shoot them out. Probably give us about 45 minutes and start throwing them out there like crazy. Okay. Here's I always ask this, but I'm going to try and ask it in a little different way. Who was your main? We'll start with Anna, and we'll try to run through as quickly as possible and bounce around. Anna, who was your main person you looked up to, your DM inspiration when you started doing this? Past, present, future.
Well, I must say, I think I've had a couple of DMs who really inspired. The first one, we got a friend of mine, Mats Idén, and he was just awesome. He played for like a year or maybe 6 months or a year ahead of me, and he was fantastic. He's one of the smartest people I know, and he was simply fantastic back in the day. He really opened the door to big stories. The problem was that he got a scholarship to go to some top American university, so he disappeared after a year and a half or something like that for some years. And I must say he was kind of instrumental in getting me into role-playing games when I was like 15 years old. And then I had another friend of mine recently, Brian Darnell. He is fantastic DM. I must say he's been absolutely fantastic. He's run a lot of Pathfinder organized play and stuff. So he has an enormous experience in running games. So he kind of taught me how you can be efficient and get the game going. So these two have taught me.
Awesome.
Yeah, really a lot, so to speak. One getting into it, and one kind of tried to elevate me up to more kind of expedient way of running games quickly.
Cool. Ladies first. So after Anne, Anne, how about that?
So it was originally Frank. I've only been playing for 9 years and DMing for 2 years. And so my original DM was Frank. And then from there, I was in an Adventurers League
cool.
game, and Byron was this. He kind of did the rule of cool, and was just kind of really nice, and I liked that aspect of it, where he connected with the players and then allowed them to figure out, if they wanted to flip as a rogue, you just roll it out, but they could flip as a rogue. And then the other one was Tom, who's one of our DMs, and I like his voices and the way he brings that out.
Awesome. That's cool. So it's very close for you, very close-knit group of people that you still play with today.
Some of us, yes.
Yeah, fantastic.
So pardon me to interrupt a second, but Anne, what does flip as a rogue mean?
Well,
I don't play 5e, so I know rogue's a thief, but I don't know the flip as a rogue. What is that? A 5e?
So,
I think I know, but go ahead.
I'm talking like a rogue, like Swashbuckler, who's like gonna run up, flip through the air, land on their head, punch him in the face.
Think of think of the usual suspects. I flip you for real.
Got it. Thanks. I wasn't sure if it was a 5e term.
Well, the terminology sometimes, Alan, is beyond me too. So but that's the. All right, Alan, how about you?
I've had a lot of DMs I've really enjoyed playing with, but when I lived in California, I had the chance to play in a Greyhawk campaign run by Mark Tizoc Gonzalez, who was one of the editors for the Orwith Journal back in the day, and he was very active on the Greyhawk list. And he was local, so we would go up there and play, and he ran this really awesome game set in the Wild Coast just before the Greyhawk Wars were supposed to overrun the area. So that was a lot of fun. I don't get to play as a player in Greyhawk real often, so I really enjoyed that. And then my business partner, John Hirschberger, runs a game set in the Wilderlands of High Fantasy. So I've been playing in that for the last, I don't know, 14 years or so.
Cool.
So it's been a lot of fun too.
Awesome. Jimmy.
You, Jay.
Yeah, we've only known each other like 9 months to a year, so I don't think so.
So that's a hard man. I've been trying to think here because, well, I mean, it was introduced way back in 1980. And I don't want to step on if that's going to be a question how we were introduced, because that's one of the questions we ask on our Wizard show, which we'll chat about later. But I would play. It was basically high school, in the cafeteria at lunch, that type of stuff, and people just walking by, you get those looks. I remember all of that back in the day. And then then all of a sudden there was a turn for me, basketball, and then college. And I am IT. I'm a computer nerd, and so I really got into the games, all the TSR games, and then all those iterations of the stuff that came out of the SSI games. And so I stayed with that a lot. I wasn't DMing or playing a lot with groups for quite a while until I would say 6 years ago, when I just wanted to get back into it. So I got on, I think it was a meetup, and met some guys playing Castle Crusades. And then that brought me back in, and then 5e shortly came out, and then boom. And then here I find myself on Twitch. And so I don't think I'm trying, to say that I've been around a lot of DMs. I can't say that I have been until now, and watching the different channels and the different styles. And that is what I've really enjoyed, being able to see now with this technology, is you can see a lot of different channels, different play styles, and how they all, work for that group. And I really enjoy. So I'm going to say all the channels that are here and all the channels that you are going to see on the show. I'll plug my show again. Those types. I have reaching out across different the different play styles to bring those across, because I think that the viewers will enjoy that more, seeing different people. I think we should be cross-pollinating all our channels to continue on moving forward and pumping up this game, which is doing quite well on its own. But we can always bring more to it. So that's my answer.
I can interject for a moment. I have two questions. I think it's really neat, or a comment and a question. I think it's really neat that you have your footing in the game way back in 80, but it seems like you're almost like a 5e player now. That's you've crossed over a lot of editions, and that's where you are now.
He's a fancy
So
rounds player.
I will be honest that, yeah, so when sports took over and fraternity life and all that in college, there was a drop there for a while, I'll say. And I never touched the 3 or 4 series. Saw it and watched it in action, but other than the games, when the computer games running, and then I would play it that way. But there was a time there I was not playing an in-person game. So
My comment, my question though was actually, where are you based out of? I detect a bit of an accent.
So I am in Dallas, Fort Worth. I'm in Dallas, but I was born in Alabama. So
nice.
Get a little alcohol in me, and you'll get the mix of all that coming up. So
cool.
So Jimmy, are you familiar with the North Texas RPG Con, which is
yes,
in Dallas
I am.
every June? All right. Okay.
I went down, actually slid in there to say hi to Kamer, and there was somebody else I went to say hi to. Skeeter Green. I did some conversion work for him on one of his modules, and so, but that's when we get into the Wizards, North Texas RPG Con is how I got to meet KC and hang out with him for a while. So yes, I am there.
Awesome.
I drop by every year. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
So cool. Carlos, how about you?
I have 3 actually. My first is DM number 1, Gary Gygax. I watched him from afar as far as his stuff goes, and like everybody else, I'm sure that has a footing it early in the roots of the game. You study every little tidbit you can get, every mention that you can get, and the way that he presented the game and the way that I saw things unfolding. Like, for example, the little snippet of things in the first Dungeon Master's Guide was a huge influence to me on how I presented the game initially. I was a kid at the time. I was only 9 years old when I was doing it. So you look at it like the rules of Monopoly a little bit, perhaps, where you're like, okay, this is how I have to do it. But then obviously you develop your own style as you go. But Gary was a huge, huge influence on me as far as his DMing style goes. As I matured and I became an adult, I was in the Air Force, and I met the acquaintance of a guy named Dominic, a friend who's a dear friend of mine even today. And Dominic was the first guy I ever met that had a very similar style to my own, except it was about 100 times better. And I saw the way he did stuff, the way he presented characters, the 3-dimensional layers he gave to characters, and it taught me a great deal about how to develop world settings, how to develop characters, and just how to create an immersive game that was compelling to the players. In terms of a campaign setting that could go on for years. And finally, the third DM actually is in this room right now. It's Alan Growy.
Awesome.
I actually gamed with Alan at GaryCon, the first GaryCon I went. I was there actually I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, Alan. I was there specifically for him. I drove about 8 hours to show up at his Castle Greyhawk game. I don't think it's a mystery, the esteem I hold him in as far as being a scholar of the setting and just an all-around great human. And I learned a lot from him, the way he presents the game, as far as the old school vibe that he presents. He does a great job in Castle Greyhawk game of capturing the whole feel that I always envisioned those first, Rob Kuntz, Gary Gygax adventures to have. And I was so enthralled. The second time I was there was a Lost Caverns of Sokhanth game with him. And I learned a lot from him. And there's still a lot of things in terms of tone that I try and I mimic from his style. So thank you, Alan.
Thank you, man. That's great to hear.
And it shows how tight the community is too. When we're all here together after all those years, it's a cool thing. Will, how about you?
Well, I'm going to steal a little from Carlos. One of the reasons being is that I didn't really have a very stable DM experience. I bounced around an awful lot. So reading all of Gygax's stuff, all those early adventures, I would get the adventures and read them and then, I want to run this. And so that's probably what led me towards DMing more is because I bounced around so much and I would play in different games, and then I'm like, well, I want to do this. My longest running dungeon master was a fellow by the name of Rob Cruz, and I just remember laughing a lot in those games and learning more that you could have fun in it as opposed to being serious. It's like you could have the good mix, because it's like you're sitting there and you're reading all these things. It's like it's so intense. It's like, oh, so the game must be intense. Not really. So, but yeah, I love Gygaxian prose. When you're a little kid and you're starting to read that stuff, you're like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah,
you go and you get the dictionary and it's like, oh.
Absolutely.
Wait, Dwemer's not in the dictionary?
Right?
My favorite was from Isle of the Ape. I read Gigaw about 6 times in Tensor's monologue at the beginning of that, and I was like, I have no idea what that is.
Right?
He says a lot of fun. Yeah, that's true. And for me, everyone knows who it is, right, Anna? Leonard Lakofka. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I had to mention
There
Leonard.
it is.
I had to mention Leonard once
you
during
done
the
it.
episode.
Yeah,
It's
Has
not
to.
true.
Yeah.
I
We
love
didn't
Leonard.
mention him yesterday. Damn, we missed it.
I missed it during it. All right. So,
Yep.
I mean, for me, Tim and I learned off of each other.
Yep.
Tim had his game, I had mine. So, I would say
Yeah.
that was it
Yeah.
for the most part.
Not to
Yeah,
say that Tim's better than you, but you need to have more Tim on the channel running. Just
I
throwing
would
that
love
out
to have
there.
more Tim on
Yeah.
the channel running, because that show is our highest viewed post show. I mean, it's about to go off, but yeah, his what do you call it? Judges Guild, Wilder Lands, City State of Invincible Overlord is a fantastic campaign.
Yeah.
So and I love playing in it.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing that I rated mine only the DMs that I played under for a lot, or with a lot, so to speak. But I also want to add Carlos. I played in 2 of his games, and
Awesome.
and it's been fantastic. So that is a wonderful experience. So you're very highly ranked but the other ones I played with maybe 100 games or more, and
Right.
and
Thank you,
so,
Anna.
so
That's
that's
great.
yeah. So and I want to rate Jay really high, but I never played in his games, so that's why that was my criteria for the great DMs that I've actually played in their games.
Well, you have, but only remotely.
Exactly. Yes.
You played.
Yeah.
You played in our
So
There should
fundraiser.
be like DM merit badges. You get to play under one guy, and you get to put it onto your.
Well,
I will
notice
say
2 of
that-
us have shirts on. So
Yeah, but Jay has a sport that is kind of hard to beat, meaning you have had the same game group for decades, and
Yeah,
and,
that
and
one. Yeah,
you
I
run
can't.
hundreds of games, and that beats us. Yeah, at least
Yeah, I
me
can't
by
earn that merit
10
badge.
miles. Yeah.
all right, here's a rapid fire one. Now, and if you don't know, it's fine. But I always like to see this, just where our minds are. We'll start with Carlos, because I think I know his answer. Your best published module you ever played, or you love the most?
Lost Caverns of Soap.
I knew it. Excellent. One of my top 3.
It's the greatest.
It's awesome. Jimmy.
And I'll give
Okay.
since you asked, I'm going to give a honorable mention to one that never gets any love, and that is Return of the 8.
Oh, I love Return of the 8 too. I mean,
Yep.
it's vital in our campaign. Jimmy. Absolutely.
I am a fan of the A series Slave Lord stuff.
Good. A1 through 4.
I
Beautiful.
love it. I keep trying to run it all the time, and now that they've brought it out for 2 of the Fantasy Ground stuff, I'm going to purchase all of it. But I've been trying to convert it, and there's been plenty of stuff out there for the 5e side, so I can run it. I'm not sure what attracts me to it all the time. Yeah.
Hey,
High
Jim,
Port
have you
rocks,
ever
man.
have you ever seen the really cool sequels that they've released for that?
Oh, I have A0. That's a prequel too.
Got
No,
that one.
sequels,
Yep.
actually, as produced by Castle Entertainment.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, we're going to talk about
Jay
that.
has sent me some of that. Yep.
We're going to talk about that shortly. I guarantee you. Will, how about you?
Oh, White Plume.
Okay.
I
White
love
Plume Mountain.
Plume. I love the halfling. That's my boy.
Alan, how about you?
Hall the Fire Giant King, G3.
Okay. Going right from there and getting into D1 is right before you go into the Underdark,
Yeah.
and it's just that's a tough fight. A lot of tough fights in those.
Vicious.
Mhm.
I did
Yeah.
a fun version of that with turning it into a Carcosa kind of crossover with it. So.
Nice.
That damn troll room.
How about you, Anna? Anne, how about you?
Storm King's Thunder.
Oh, okay. That's a more recent one. That's cool.
Mhm.
Definitely. Now that one is Forgotten Realms based, correct? Am I correct
Yes.
on that? Yep.
Mhm.
Awesome.
And having never played it myself, what do you find compelling about it?
I think the sandbox. It's allowed me to develop backstories, develop their backstories. I do run it. So I get to honor their backstories, and then I get to do all kinds of research about what's happened in those areas. And then it's also neat because I read all the books, so it's neat to actually play in areas that the books happen.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anna.
I think, yeah, for me, it's Hamlet. Definitely.
T1,
And for
yeah.
exactly the same reason as Anne. So
Yeah.
I was so glad when you said that it was a sandbox, because that's the way I loved. And that was actually probably the first, or the one of the very first modules that I read through and ran. And I just love the idea of giving me the things to play with. And that's it, so to speak. No set
Cool.
order to things, not going through a labyrinth or anything like that. It's simply a village with the inhabitants, and let the characters run wild through it. And that became my mantra ever since. So that's my absolute favorite module.
So everyone knows I have a thank you, and I appreciate that. Everyone knows I have a wall of fame, and I have 24 up there.
You have
as
to
we walk
choose
in.
one.
Well,
Yeah.
for me, I'm going to go Temple of Elemental Evil. Okay,
Yeah,
I know a lot of people
Okay,
don't
there
like
you
it.
go.
I like it. I like that it's open, and I connected T1 Helmet through that with a whole bunch of adventures. You know, I love that one. If it's non TSR, let's go Dark Tower Judges Guild. There's a lot of that is a cool one. It's nasty. You're fighting set worshippers. You gotta go all the way down before you go all the way up in the tower. It's kind of crazy. It's long. I love that one. If you want to talk non-published TSR.
I
So
was going to
guys,
ask Ann, have y'all on the channel run Dragon Heist?
No.
Okay.
Most of us, actually, the only published adventures we have done is Strahd.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to probably make enemies here, but bleh. I did not like
all right. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. They take a great idea and they go too far with it. The original adventure is on my wall of fame, right? Ravenloft, the original Ravenloft adventure is fantastic the way it's done.
Yeah,
And
I
then
haven't seen that.
they created a whole
Mhm.
demi-plane, which, and it just kept on going and going and going.
You're trapped in stupid depression.
Yeah.
Sorry, but that's how it felt. It was
Don't
just
apologize.
So depressing.
No, don't apologize at all. Yeah.
Dostoevsky, the campaign.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
At Satori 2046, the answer is yes. You can play Hamlet without TOE. You can even you
Yeah.
can just play it separate. And trust
Yep.
me, because TOE came out 9 years later, you played it a lot because there weren't a lot of published modules like over and over and over. So back in
That's
the
why
day.
everybody was so upset about when Temple came out, because they're like, everybody had drawn all these conclusions as far as what Hamlet, what it was going to be, and then it was like, that's not what we thought it was going to be.
I wasn't upset with that. I was upset about the wait between T1 and the actual published module, because I had been going to my local game store for literally years because I kept getting promised in Dragon Magazine that it was coming out.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Oh my
Trust me,
gosh.
the guy who was running the store was tired of hearing you ask about
Oh,
it.
believe me.
Yeah.
He's like, every time Carlos comes in, is it? No, okay.
Yeah, exactly. It was like he should just put a sign on the door.
Mm-hmm.
Not here yet.
We're gonna start with Carlos on this one. Because this is going to be like, do you believe in a repeating antithesis in your campaign, and name a memorable one?
Yeah. I actually have a repeating antithesis in one of my games that is pretty memorable. Her name's Marquesa.
Yeah.
I have, going to Jimmy's comments earlier, Castle Entertainment has published 3 modules that follow at the end of the Slave Lords campaign, and all 3 of them deal with Marquesa the Enchantress, who makes her first appearance in A2, Secret of the Slaver's Stockade, and it's the hunt for Marquesa afterwards. And she really became such a nemesis to a lot of the player characters that they were by the time I ran that module last at GaryCon, there was actually a cheer in the room when she finally bit it. So that was actually pretty good. And she actually has an underling in that game called the Pallid Maiden, who is a Soul anti-paladin. And I remember in an earlier running of that game when she showed up, because it mentions what the way the game had developed throughout the years. I remember the horrified look on the player character who was the paladin and who was her direct nemesis. His face, the color, I watched it drain out of his face there at the gaming table when she came strolling down the hallway. It was just such an intense moment because everyone was like, oh my God, everybody needs to step back and let these two just go at it. It was a really, really cool moment.
And it sounds so memorable that it's great to have them. I know myself, real quick. I've always had Makarash, or now I have Darius the Deposed and Altamira. You have to have, if you're going to have a campaign running for years on end, you need something to stick against them.
I would also put Michael Baton in there.
Yes, he's an anti-hero though.
Yeah,
that doesn't matter.
He's so hated by the players at large. I would think that he would actually fit in that criteria.
And it's true, and he's a player character. That's it. And too bad Mark's not on tonight because it's his character. He is in Harvey. He's such an anti-hero. But I appreciate that, Carlos. Thank you. How about you, Jimmy? What do you do you run some anti-heroes or antitheses?
Praetor. So no, most of the stuff on the channel has been the release content for what I'm doing, but I have made Praetor, who has usually been the catalyst for usually starting the adventures or some influence in the game. The players have been able to they have some fun with him at his expense too, and so he's been an enigma out there for what he does and how he brings these teams together. So I would say that's anything that recurring that's been going on with my campaigns has probably been that character that starts everything off. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, Will, how about you?
Caraptus,
great one.
Yes, I love Caraptus, and simply because too back in he was just a name. So I could do whatever I wanted to do with Caraptus. So, and he's been in a couple of when I run Greyhawk, Caraptus tends to pop up. I love the Bandit Kingdoms too. So there you go.
Well, that ties in with White Plume Mountain.
Will,
exactly.
I'm going to have to ask you this basically. I think I already know the answer, but how'd you feel about his treatment in Return to White Plume Mountain?
No, that was crap.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I loved it because at the end, everyone knows what happens at the end. Well, I did that 17 years ago in Game Time. Well, guess what? I have a 18-year-old kid now, Kelvan.
The way you did it was really cool.
Thank you.
So
now he's back. Yeah, so now he doesn't know. He doesn't even know because he was raised. He doesn't even know he's Caraptus.
Right.
So it's kind of cool.
But, yeah. I mean, it was a good idea.
Right.
But
who has 17 years of game time to sit around and wait for a kid to grow up?
Well, I mean, just the regular, the gnomes and all that, and the different people becoming. I'm Caraptus. I mean, it's all right.
Yeah, you're right. All right, Alan, how about you?
I don't really have an individual NPC who kind of transitions from campaign to campaign per se. I usually try to run a campaign and make it kind of distinct from other games when I run it in the setting. It's part of what I like exploring in Greyhawk is sort of the breadth of it. But as a DM, probably my favorite love would be, in terms of foes, would be demons in general, and then all the demon princes and demon queens and stuff. So a number of them have played roles in the campaigns over the years, with some homebrew ones kind of at the top of the list, and then canonical ones like Frotzer Blue or Grotz or Tiamat in my case, because I made her chaotic evil, not lawful evil.
Nice. Well, and you got some big ones. With Grotz especially, really cool.
Alan, next month the Twitch theme or the Patreon theme for Castle Entertainment is demons. So
nice.
Oh,
pay close attention.
Definitely. Might be time to subscribe.
How about you, Ann?
I might be able to get you some materials on the slide. I know a
my campaign's only a year old, so we are not we don't have repeating characters too much yet. What we have is we have this thing that I've named Myth, which is wild magic surges that occur everywhere.
Yeah.
And so right now what that has been is really random weird things coming in. Like we have a cat troll that chases things. We have a Prince Eric, who tries to make sure that the maidens don't trip over anything and asks them to make sandwiches for them. And so just kind of we try to play on things to push their buttons.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but when people cheer, that wild magic can actually go off, correct?
Yes.
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 And
That's
For
awesome.
every 250
Cool.
bits, we have a wild magic surge.
Oh,
When we reach
Love it.
1,000, it's a maximum
Yes.
myth
That's
event.
cool.
Yeah.
See, that's
Like it.
Awesome.
that's a good thing about. I like that idea of using your bits like that. That actually has a good
Mhm.
way of affecting the world, but not. Yeah, I like that.
It's
That's cool.
It's
definitely worth.
participatory.
It's
Yeah.
definitely worthwhile to watch. Oh, by the way, everyone, I'm going to say this multiple times. You got multiple Twitch channels here. Please follow all of them. Okay, what we'll do at the end of the night, we'll have everyone link. Feel free to link your channels, guys, whenever you want. Please, that's everyone here is kind of the highest quality production. So, and thank you. We really appreciate your participation. And Anna, how
Well,
about your?
when it comes to I agree with Alan a lot about the demon lords are irresistible, so to speak. But and my favorite among the Grest and several of the other ones are high up on my list too. But one that I've used often in my campaigns over the years is one that Gary Gygax invented in Gord the Rogue books, and that was Lord Vuron, one of the right-hand sidekicks of Gast, a kind of disciplined, cold-thinking, rational, long-term, really thoroughly evil demon, and Lord
The lawful
Vuron,
evil demon.
exactly, the lawful evil demon, the demon that is kind of the exception of all the other demons, so to speak. And I just he's awesome. So
Thinking man's demon for sure.
Yep. So he has been kind of both kind of nudged the party in the right direction and thwarted them at the same time, and kind of he's been kind of played a little bit of a sidekick role and been there at numerous times because he was irresistible, so to speak. So that's something I really kind of used over time. Yeah.
Skagith just topped on. Remember, Skagith was on the second show, so everyone say hello.
Hey.
Yep.
Hey,
Skag?
what's up, Skagit?
Skagith
Good
has
to
the
see ya.
line of the DM Roundtable, and what that was, I hate fucking monks. If you remember that. that was
Yeah,
the
that was
the
awesome.
comedy line of all.
Mm-hmm.
It's just out of the blue in that monotone. It was definitely funny. So thanks, guys, for that one. All right. So does any of you want to ask a question of us? I can keep on rolling. I got a whole bunch, but anyone want to throw one out there right here? You want me to keep going? I'll keep going.
Okay, go on.
How about this? I'm going to start with Carlos because I bet you this happens a lot. Give me one of the saddest moments during one of your games, whether it's a player death or something catastrophic happened. Jimmy's laughing.
Well, actually, I'm going to relate the events of last night's Twitch stream.
Okay. Awesome.
We have a character. One of the characters in our group is a gnomish illusionist thief, and he's into everything. Okay. Now, in our last game, through the campaign so far, he has adopted two very young gnomes as his apprentices. Their names are Lily and Sunshine. But anyway, they're very young. Their aunt didn't want them to go. They begged to go because they think he's the most wonderful thing since bread came sliced. And so they're all out on the road together in Southern Raddick, going down the South Road. Well, they came across a trapdoor in the middle of the road. Now the rest of the group wanted to continue down the road, but my gnome wouldn't leave it alone. So he goes in there with a bunch of the other NPCs that are beloved by the group. He finds out that it is a orcish bandit lair in there, and he ends up in a situation where he's locked in a room with all the NPCs. They have enlarged one of the orcs, so he is barring the door, basically. He's squashed into the hallway. and they end up tunneling through this thing, and there's the orcs start lobbing flaming oil into the room. One of the NPCs is poisoned. She's about to die. Basically, there's smoke and flame everywhere. It's a horrific scene. The gnome ends up pulling his apprentice out of the room with him through the smoke. They fight their way through all these orcs. Two of the most beloved NPCs die in absolutely horrific ways. One of them is the sister to a twin brother dwarf. And last night he ended up holding her dead body, looking at him, pleading with him to use his magic to save her. And he's an illusionist. Right. All he knows is that he has magic. So he's begging her, please save my sister, please. And he's like, my magic doesn't work that way. And he has to look at him in the face, knowing that he's completely responsible for this because of his insatiable curiosity. And meanwhile, his young apprentice is sitting there wide-eyed, absolutely shell-shocked, because she's seen this horrific blood and gore and death. It's the first time in her life. I mean, she was this sweetness and light character before, and both of them are just sitting there in this orcish lair with this black plumes of smoke rolling everywhere. And it was just like the total loss of innocence. It was so horrible. Blood and guts everywhere. It was great.
This is why I love Carlos as a DM. He just made me think I was there. He just gave me the description of it, and I picture it in my head now, and that's what's just so amazing by Carlos on that. That's sad.
Yeah, it was very sad, especially when now they're going to have to deal with the aftermath. They're going to go up to the rest of the group, and they're going to have to explain to them exactly what happened. One of them is a possible love interest to one of the characters that died up there, one of the NPCs. They're going to have to, one of the sisters is going to have to talk to the other sister about what happened. There's so many repercussions that's going to happen there, and none of them are good.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. It sounds like a great. And remember that vid's up, guys. So everyone can watch that vid right on Twitch right now.
Or on YouTube if you guys are interested in that.
Jimmy, you were laughing, so you must. It's probably comedically sad. So.
Well, I could be the antithesis. So two, but my stories aren't as engaging because with streamers like myself and Nightheart, even y'all, I would say that with the tabletop, I mean, there's interaction that you're looking for between the game and the viewers and all that. And so the one that comes up, which made me sad, is one of the groups I'm running right now, the Lost Minds, a Fandover group. They almost immediately killed Droop. And if you know who Droop is in the story, he is a comedic relief, goblin, and you have a lot of leeway to play with him. And I do and use him to create trouble with the groups and to show up at the inopportune moment and run through things and set stuff off, and I'm like, you just killed my show. And I was sad. I was sad. And people in the stream like, they just didn't kill Droop, did they? Yeah, they just killed Droop because he didn't like a goblin. And so, I shed a tear for our Droop because it's the first time I've run that module. I run the module a lot because I like it. It's great for what I consider as introduction to the 5e realm. And they took Droop away for my show.
Oh my gosh, that is sad.
Sad.
I love throwing comedic relief, and we use the Jester class, and that's our, always, or we have, our Goblin and Bugbear combination. That's a shame. That definitely is. Alan, how about you?
I guess my story is a little similar to Carlos's, but it was from a campaign I was playing in. It was Mark's campaign I alluded to earlier. Our group of characters was exploring a tower in the Wild Coast, and we found these children who were in there, and it turns out that the lord of the tower was a werewolf. And we put pressure on him during an audience, and he turned into a werewolf and killed one of the children we had rescued trying to get out of there.
Oh.
So that was very unfortunate in game, and we weren't able to raise her. We took her all the way back to a real city, and she failed her resurrection roll.
Oh,
so it was permanent.
Oh,
You know, but it's just like anything else. If you win, if there's 100% success all the time,
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah,
not real. You know, it's real life D&D. There's going to be successes and failures.
And
Yeah.
also, not to compare necessarily editions or anything like that, but in first edition, the mortality rate is so much higher than in a lot of other game settings. So what I explained and what Alan was just explaining, because I'm assuming that was a 1E game as well.
It was not actually. It was a 3E game.
Wow. Okay.
Oh,
Well, in
yeah.
my game, the mortality rate is pretty high because that's the nature of 1E, man. It's the price you pay.
Absolutely, definitely. Anne, how about you? You got to have some sad
Yeah,
stories.
I'm about to bring it down lower.
I try to keep it high.
I had one of my players die in real life,
Oh,
and it was tragic.
oh my.
And the people who played in the campaign were his mother, brother-in-law, and sister,
Oh man.
and
Oh.
Frank. So we took a break, and then had to come back. And I was petrified, honestly. It took, because I'd only been DMing 2 months.
Right.
And I wanted to honor the character, honor the player who passed away, and also give a transitional object to his mother and sister. But I couldn't at the same time be him. You know,
Understood.
you
So you're an
can't
NPC.
ever say their words. You can't,
Yeah.
because you're not them. He's not an NPC. You're right.
Yeah.
So I created a whole, his goddess called him and sent him off to take on the hill giants from Storm King's Thunder, and gave them a healing bell, which is basically like a healing ward. And his mother uses it often, and they were very happy with where it went. But
Awesome.
it was extremely petrifying and extremely sad.
Pardon me. And that's talk about being forged in fire as a DM. What
Yeah.
a difficult situation. It sounds like you navigated beautifully.
Thank you. I'm a psychologist.
Sure, that
Well,
helps.
I'll just
Yeah.
drop it.
Yeah.
It helps. But yeah, it was scary.
I can only imagine.
Hmm.
Wow. How about Will? How about you?
I have a terrible memory, so I'll just go to the most recent and fresh thing in my head, which would be in Return to the Bandit Kingdoms when Silverwolf Adams' character, the one that goes into Kinmeet, and because they've got a slaving thing going on in there, he basically just killed himself. He went out to single-handedly try to save all the slaves, knowing full well that he was going to end up killing his character there. And it wasn't something that was planned. It was just basically something that was brewed into his character about his hatred of the orcs and then his hatred of slavery. And he could take one or the other, probably, but when you put the two together, and so yeah, that's when he marches his. And then the other thing about it is the rest of the party, because this wasn't a planned thing, and they're like, so they're trying to help him, and it's like, nope, he's standing. And so when they have to call the line and get out of there as an entire city full of orcs are rising up around them, but I don't think that Adam was ready to kill his character off at that point in time either. He just, he went in, the situations were right, and he's like, well, this is what my guy's going to do. This is what I've typed him into his character. This is how he is. So he's not getting out of here alive. So,
wow.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Anna?
Well, I have two things that stands out as sad. One that got a really good ending, and the other one didn't end out well at all. I can say the first one was good ending. Was when one of my players back in, this is late 80s, was going to move away permanently to South America somewhere, and it was a long time, and that this is long before the internet or anything. He's realized we would not be able to play for a decade or some, at least, or something like. So we realized that what the heck, we knew that this is going to happen. So it was more like we have to take farewell of the player and the character. So and I think he played a fighter of some sort. So he decided he wanted to multi-class into paladin. So we kind of said, oh, he got the revelation from Hieronymus to be, and he took it up and became a paladin, and then he ran up and sacrificed himself in one hell of a fight at the end, at the last game session, so to speak. So we had a fight against Ius, and he had pumped himself, and we buffed him, and he ran in and just slaughtered as much as because he was determined to sacrifice himself for battle and for the glory of his god, and that was it was a good way of handling it. That was actually it turned out an awesome evening, so to speak. So that was a good way of ending it. And the other, we had a sad story that was a few years later, and when we started playing. Oh, that was quite a bit later when we started playing 3rd edition, and we realized this is so cool. You can play monsters, you can be all sorts of things. So we say, we're going to have an evil campaign, and we're going to play evil whatever. So we're going to test it out. And so we took some of the players and we rolled up orcs, half orcs, bandits, or whatever they wanted to be, anti-paladins and necromancers, whatever, and said that they are part of some bandit gang that IU sent out to cause mayhem somewhere. And we did it. And one of the guys, he was playing a wizard, and he really wanted to be, so to speak, but what he didn't realize, that the guy, and I can't say his name or anything, and I should kind of obscure a few details because this is a kind of a sad story. But anyway, he wanted to be evil, but he was kind of a good guy, so he didn't realize that the other players were playing evil, so they were kind of fooling him too, and he ended up rolling bad, so his character kind of got controlled by the others, and they were really cruel to him. So that was a horrible experience, and I was stupid as a DM, so I just let it run. So I should have stopped it from happening long before it happened. But I thought, this is an evil campaign, run with it, and whatever happens was going to be, which might be tie into a later topic that will come up. So that was a big mistake of mine. So he never played again. So at least as far as
evil campaigning is so right on that edge. It is. That's why we don't even go there.
Yeah,
we tried it once.
I never ventured there again, so to speak. So yeah, we had some really good sessions before that. In that campaign was fantastic up until that happened, but it derailed badly. So
here's a bizarre question that I've never had anyone ask ever. And Nixel put it out there into the audience. I want to bring this up. We'll just shoot it real quick. He asks, "What real life profession makes a good DM?" I never even thought about that. So I'm a sales rep.
And being a psychologist.
Yeah, a psychologist.
I'm a Zumba instructor. I was a Zumba instructor for 10 years. That
too. So obviously that's the perfect mix right there.
Yeah.
I just think I don't think Nixel it's a profession. It's a personality. It's how you are, and that maybe helps with your profession. Does anyone agree, disagree?
No, I agree with that. Nixel, one thing I do know is my current profession is I'm an engineer by trade, but I was also a creative writing major in college. I was going to write the next great American novel, but as an engineer, one thing I find that it helps me with is it helps with mapping a lot, and I notice I do things that a couple people I notice don't do when they create dungeons. Is I think about things like ventilation. I think about things like bathrooms, things that aren't there necessarily in dungeons that you would have to have if you were creating a complex in which a lot of people inhabit.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily know that makes me a better DM or not, but I do know that it informs my map making ability quite a bit.
The ability to talk to anyone and eye contact and to is inherently positive for almost any profession, right? So and that comes same thing with DMing and the ability to think on your feet and be able to jump back and forth and say something that you weren't prepared. It happens. Does anyone else want to throw an input into that one, or we want to move on to?
He could go if he's looking for something that will help him to become a better DM as in his job career, anything that deals with the public. So go get a top flight job in the retail profession and just go out
Yeah.
there and deal with everybody that's under the sun, and that'll help you.
All right, so Zeltaris, who has not followed yet, so I'm going to ask his question just because I'm greedy, and it's a good one. How's it affected your real? Look at that, the timing. How does that affect your real life careers? Now, I'll answer this first. It has helped me with my DMing and my sales job, and I've been with my company 25 years. It's actually helped me interact with people better. It has, and plus it's a mental exercise. That's why I look at D&D. So that's why everyone in my group, we're all professionals. Alan, Bill, Mark, we're all Walt, Tom. We all have careers, and I think it really helps with that, with interacting with people. Anyone else want to take that up?
Well, for me, it's been life-changing. First of all, now I have a profession thanks to doing maps professionally, thanks to role-playing games. But long before then, first of all, role-playing taught me English in a way that schools and other things couldn't. So I think I will only be half as versed or literate in English that I am, because when you started to read advanced like AD&D and stuff when you were like 15 years old, that was roughly on par with what you're supposed to as an American or British teenager. That was really life-changing to me. That was back in the day before internet and computer games and all that. That was my gateway drug for getting into the English language.
The Gygaxian pros to the rescue yet again.
Yeah, exactly. I knew what all the factory was long before my English teachers knew about it. So yeah.
Satori 2046 says it totally changed my life thanks to D&D. I started reading, writing, watching movies, being curious, and years after became a journalist and a director. That's awesome. And they personally sent a letter to Gary Gygax. That's so cool. A lot of people don't realize how in depth D&D goes into society.
Yeah.
So definitely something to think about. Anyone else want to have some input on this question?
Well, it's a release, isn't it?
Absolutely, Jimmy. It's a release.
It's a release. It's a release. Yeah.
It's a safe release.
Yeah, I mean, I'm IT, so it's computer really, and the technical side, and you come over to the creative side, and you can get that whole imagination going, and away we. Yeah, so that's why I see it.
And it's also something that you can do world building. You can prep adventures in your head constantly when you have time left over, and I've been the soldier for part of my life, and when you sit out there and have nothing else to do, you can kind of dream up fantasy scenarios, whatever. So that helped me to fight boredom in a way that a lot of my colleagues never had that, and I've never been bored in my life since I started playing, and I don't even have to have a notebook. I can just take ideas and try to remember them, and it's awesome. Yeah.
So fantastic.
Teaches you critical thinking too.
Yes, absolutely.
And plot making.
I think I don't think people give that the due that it, because that's part of role playing, is deducing and breaking down problems and solving them. It makes you, and you don't realize that you are honing those skills probably even when you're using them in your real life or at your job or whatever. You probably don't realize that you were sharpening those the entire time that you were role playing.
Professionally, my whole job is about creating solutions to challenging scenarios.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Cool.
I think one of the other great benefits of playing in general, whether you're the DM or a player, is all that social interaction too.
Oh yeah.
I was hideously shy as a child, and I can talk to people now and stuff like that. So it helps be able to engage with people, get comfortable with, if you work a game convention, engaging with the retail, with the public, like you were talking about earlier. Will, it forces you to work with people and get a better understanding of people. Not everybody thinks the same way all of us do individually, and get an appreciation for different points of view, experiences.
It is a definite. I guess my life would be a little different if I wasn't playing since I was 11, 12 years old. You know what I mean? Just maybe not. Who knows? But I have the same friends playing, which is unbelievable that we have stayed together all this time. And it's something that it's just cool. Definitely. I'm going to really make this a very deep topic now, and because we're at this point. All right, this one's going to take a little bit, guys. Are you ready for this? It's a little deep. All
Okay,
right,
take it,
here we
Kevin.
go.
Buckle in.
Yep.
This has come out in the last week.
I know what he's going to ask. I knew it. I knew
Yeah,
it.
of course,
Yeah.
man.
Knew it.
Come on
I
now.
knew it.
Consent in Gaming by Sean K. Reynolds and Shauna Germain. Okay. Now, I only found out about this on a post from the old Graniard himself talking about it, really, and he slammed it. Now, with this also comes a checklist to give to your players or whatever about stuff that may trigger them or upset them. Now, I think this is a good topic to discuss because I know we're probably a lot of us are at the other gamuts but of the spectrum, which is okay. So I want everyone to hear what Anne has to say about this because I think she's going to come at this from a psychological perspective on this, and then we'll go from there. So, Anne, why don't you discuss what you'd like to say about this
Sure.
topic?
So Maximum Maidens was developed out of a. So I have had some discrimination in gaming coming as a woman. I don't know if you've experienced this, Anna, but
times,
playing
but
in
not that
Adventurers
much.
League and being told how to play and what to do was one of the reasons where Maximum Maidens developed. And we were specifically taking on social issues that women deal with in day-to-day life. And how can we transform that and make that more positive? So I have thrown some really tough things at them and triggered them or made them upset. And we didn't do anything like this initially. And so some of my players had been playing for less than a year, maybe only 6 months. Others have been playing for their whole life, actually, almost since they were like 8. It brought up a lot of issues, even for the experienced to unexperienced, because we were tackling the things that that can be a struggle. And so we didn't have something like this. And we started to talk about this, about what triggers you. They communicate with me about what they want or can handle, can cope with. Because ultimately, I don't want to set off a traumatic episode for people and send them to therapy because we're playing, because what we're doing on the game. I do want to address the issues, but not in a way where they come away traumatized. So with this we haven't used this, but we have there's other things that came out before this that we have been, it's just a list of things that people get triggered on. And so sent that out, asked people what triggers them. Interesting thing is that many people will say, oh, nothing triggers me. And we have found in our gaming that we don't know until it actually happens in the game. So this is kind of the first step where people, I know that some people are triggered by racism. We tackled some slavery recently, and I have 2 African-American players, and I talked to them beforehand, and they're like, okay, well, this is what we're comfortable with, this is what we're not comfortable with, and some things like that. So we use that as what are we comfortable with, where are we willing to go? One of my players is triggered by being dirty. And so this, I think, is a great start, but this is just our first step. We actually have a second step that Nightheart Gaming has introduced, where we have there's an X card system. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
It's in the book. It's in the PDF.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And we use that. And what we have is a green card, a yellow card, and a red card. And because it's a public forum, they don't want to sit there and go, hey, that's triggering me.
Yeah.
They want it to be private. And so it's my responsibility to redirect, stop, whatever we need to do to make it better. And I see Cascavellian. So trigger is a word that is used for people who have PTSD and they're triggered for a traumatic response, might have a flashback, nightmares, bad memories, right? and it is used quite loosely by a lot of people. And one of the things that we've had to talk about is triggered versus, well, that Frank and I have talked about is triggered versus upset, you know. And they're you know, triggered is a very emotional response. I have triggered a player once, and then other things that people are just upset and trying to cope through it. So triggered is, you know, something where they're going to be hitting that red card and we're going to stop the stream and we may not come back. You know, I've been triggered as well on stream with some of my own abuse that it's like D&D does some stuff to you guys.
Things can get out of hand. That's true.
It can get out of hand.
That's
and
true.
I had no idea. You know who did it? It was Strahd. Strahd triggered me. But anyways, so we have the yellow card being slow down, reverse it. And we still work on this, and something we have conversation with before every game. So that's my long answer.
Well, I appreciate that because I know you being a newer DM and having an all-female cast
and newer players.
It makes, and I really appreciate you sharing that with us. I really do, because I look at it from, and then please jump in after this. My guys, I've been with my guys for 40 years, and we all know what triggers each other, but we also know what things we don't want to say on stream to upset people who are watching, because there are things you can do that will get yourself permanently banned. We all know them, and there's things that are just absolute no-nos, and it's been a little bit of a learning curve. There's because you know, there's certain words, we're not going to say them here, that people said when they were kids that didn't mean what the words meant, and they got said, and they still to this day slip occasionally. And Anna put it the best way. Anna, what do you do when something like that happens?
Well, it's I probably said something very wise that I can't remember right now.
You always say just apologize and mean it.
Oh
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you always have to apologize.
Yeah, apologize right then and there and say, "Hey, I'm sorry.
And you're a master at that. You've done that every time something bad has come up that way. That slip up.
Thank you.
Yep.
So that's what you have to do. And you know, and everyone's going to handle this differently. But I wanted to bring this up, and I wanted to see if anyone else wants to input on this topic. You know, I know a lot of us are not going to use this, but that's okay. It's not meant for everyone to utilize it. So, Jimmy, Alan, anyone want to input?
I'll throw some feelings out on this.
Okay.
Actually, I had a little bit of a preface to this whole thing before the actual document came out. About like 3 days before, one of my dearest friends, an artist that I've had on my streams before, Sarah Dallinger, actually created a very similar document, and then this one came out. So I kind of had some thoughts about it even before I saw this document, and that now that the conversation is really rolling about this, it made me. I guess what I'm saying is I've had some time to really digest this. And feelings on this are pretty simple. I deal with a lot of edgy themes in my game. Okay, I wouldn't call myself one of those crazy edgelords or something like that, but I do like to reflect reality a lot. And reality isn't always very pretty. Okay,
right.
You heard exactly, like, for example, the combat that I did over there. For a lot of people, that might be a little bit too far to go. So I guess for myself as a player, I don't need this kind of thing. However, this document is great because there are people that do.
Right.
When people have tools for coping mechanisms and things like that out there, it's a good thing. Okay, just because it's not good for me, doesn't mean it's not good to exist. And I think that this document is great for that. I have too, like Anne, have met a lot of players out there in my travails and my my travels that have had different issues with different things in gaming, and I didn't know about it until actually after the game, and they were like, "Hey, man, that was a little too much right there in one component of the game." And then you feel bad about it. You're like, oh man, I really wish I wouldn't have done that. But then you think to yourself, you know, you only see things through the lens of your own experience in your own eyes. And it's too late by then.
Carlos, you do something fantastic because I played in a couple of your games, and you do something fantastic that I think is also very important. Not only the bad things, but it's how you present it and how you run your games as a DM. Because Carlos, you're doing something that I think is awesome, and a lot of DMs should dig into, is that you kind of describe the world and the happenings from a player perspective. Kind of you informing the players what to do, so you're not the and then you occasionally step in and play the role, but you have a neutral DMing when you are not antagonizing. You don't play, you really go out of the length to be friendly with the players, and you almost kind of holding their hands when all the horrible things come and so on. So your DMing style is very kind of empathetic, or you show empathy to the players and stuff. So you guiding them. It's like you're the horror director that sits with the audience and like, oh, this is going to get scary and so on, but hold on, and we're going to survive this kind of together. And
yeah,
that,
thank you very much for saying that, Anna, because I do that. My whole approach as a DM is I play the universe. I am the environment. I'm the world. But at the same time, I'm also a cheerleader for the players.
Mhm.
You guys are the heroes. I want you guys to do well.
Yep.
I want you guys to succeed. Sometimes you make decisions that don't pan out the way you do, and the universe has to respond. But by the same token, like as I said, my biggest thing about this document is it's a great tool because just for its plain existence, it's a great tool, because I'm all for things out there for people that need them. I'll give you an example. I'm able-bodied. I don't need a wheelchair, but that doesn't mean I don't want them to exist. People need them out there, okay? And I'm empathetic to their need to have those things.
Yeah.
The world would be a way, way worse place if we didn't have handicapped, enabled, venues and transportation abilities. So, and I'm not trying to compare the two, don't get me wrong, but it's just an analogy I think is appropriate here. It's tools to help people, and that's good.
Well, I appreciate that input on that, Carlos. It really makes a lot of sense. Definitely does. And
I had to create, there was a third step I had to take in Maximum Maidens with my really, really new players who didn't know how to role play, didn't know how to get this stuff out through their character, and didn't know how to process things. They asked me to help them, so I created a therapist who stops the myth events from happening, who is me being a therapist for them, and helping them to access the other players, to help them to come in and be supportive for them.
You know, one other thing, Anne, I'd like to mention, because you brought something up earlier in your conversation. It's a little bit tangential to this, but I do want to hit it. People who are a patron or members of my Patreon last month got a chance to read a little bit of insight about my history in gaming. But ever since I was even, my formative years as a DM and things, I've had females in my group. I had a girl named Jenny, as a matter of fact, who was one of my a really good player for me very early in my games. It only has really become apparent to me over the last several years, because of my own personal experiences, that that females are treated maybe a little bit differently in our hobby than I ever saw before. But in my own particular products, for example, you will never see in my pre-generated characters in the back of a Castle Entertainment module, there will almost always be an even number of female and male PCs to choose from. I do that for a reason. I like to reflect. D&D is a great thing for us because of infinite possibilities. But with infinite possibilities, you have to account for infinite amount of permutations of your players and things like that. I want pre-generated characters. I want things that people can. I want them to be able to identify with themselves in some of the things that they see. And if I don't have female PCs in the back of my games or pre-gens, and I go to a convention and I'm sitting at a table with 3 females, which happens to me quite often, I want them to be able to say, hey, I want to pick that female ranger. I want to pick that female magic user, so that they have an opportunity to play characters they want to play.
Yeah.
But that's again, this has become a new thing to me. I mean, I'm being naive when I say that, but it really is new to me, and I'm a little bit disgusted by it, honestly. But I think we all, as stewards of the game, have a responsibility to make sure that we do that and we make everybody feel welcome at our tables.
Oh, I agree 100%. Anyone else want to do a final comment?
I think it's one of probably the best reasons that to have something like this is the conventions and all the different social areas where people you have no clue who they are come together, because this is, pardon the expression, this is a CYA document. And it goes all the way around. It helps this person over here to keep them from doing something that, I'm not saying intentionally, but it's keeping you from messing up and doing something where you would hurt somebody else's feelings, and you would do that unintentionally. Same thing with the DM, same thing with the other players. And if you don't know anybody, you don't know how far to do anything. So that's where I think something like this comes into play and is really good. You could have something like that. Now, is that list a little bit long for like using in a tournament, and when you're at a convention? Probably. I think they maybe need to revise it a little bit, simply to not to make any one point less important than another, but when you got time crunch, and that's where the X cards and different things like that, so like using it in conjunction with something else,
we came to the same conclusion. Great. We covered this Monday night with Rob Schwab on the channel.
Oh, cool.
And we were basically with KC, and he runs Cobalt Con, that document would be something that would possibly use the DMs could have, or the table could use, because you have no idea who those players are that's sitting at your table.
Yeah.
And I just took it back a little bit more from me as a DM on the side. Common sense is one thing. I think just please put that word out there, is the use common sense. And if there's doubt, and my saying is, if there's doubt, then there is no doubt. You don't use it. You don't put it in. You don't do it. This is how basically it gets. And I ran the female side, so I don't step on Anso, because she's taken a different, a very unique, and I think a maverick approach to that. But with the female group that I had, I was concerned about that. And we talked about it a little bit, but it was just like, I'm just not, I run the modules already, so we already know they're fairly clean and they're fairly, appropriate for use out there. Right. But we ran into a little bit on the channel, which I was concerned about, that was going to get some blowback, and I got out of their way because they took care of it. Okay, so the troll that came on there, they just blew him out of the water, and they were quite happy and quite willing to stand up for themselves. They didn't need me to take care of anything for them.
Was it a channel troll, or was it a troll?
Yeah, it was. He came on there, and it was a female deal, and here came this comments, and it was in the middle of when all this was really had brought this to a head. 3.5 years ago. So, and I was kind of frightened. I was concerned about how this was going to be presented, and the ladies, they took care of it for me. So I was quite happy about that.
Also, by the way, Jay, myself, Anna, and Alan, I would consider to be really old school DMs. Will, you may be in that category too. I really don't know your background so well as the rest of them.
1980, baby.
Okay, so you're
Yep.
Whereas
I just look young.
relatively new. Yet we all, the old school DMs tend to get a reputation as being a little bit more insensitive to things like that. And I like the fact that we're seeing this cross section of experience, and yet we all seem to be on the same wavelength as far as this goes. I think that's really neat.
I think a lot of that blowback were people who are from the the older generation. Not all of them, but it's like there's a lot of knee-jerk reaction because all this new influx of people and players and stuff. People get a little bit paranoid of like, oh, my game. It's like, because there are differences between it, but instead of embracing them, they get kind of like, like I'm going to defend my game and the way that I play and all this. And, it's like, it's a game. There is no wrong way of playing D&D,
right.
man.
That's a thing that a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah.
I think
there's room for everybody.
I think the thing is that X card, I'm not sure if we use the X card system. I think we use a different thing, the red, yellow, green cards. The sheet would be unwieldy at a con.
Yeah,
for a 2-hour session or 4-hour session.
You got to go in with common sense.
And then it's also it's embarrassing to mark those things for a lot of people.
Right?
Yeah.
And there are
Yeah.
people who have told me I'm not triggered by anything, and I've seen them triggered at games.
Yeah.
You know,
And
and
so,
I'm sorry, please. I'm sorry.
so just using the cards is a way to handle that at a con, where you plop down the cards. You say, if you're uncomfortable, just tap that card. I'll redirect. I'm not going to ask you what it is. If you want to talk to me or pull me aside, we can do that. But I'm not going to, I'm not going to get into your
good
private
thing,
issues.
right?
unless you
Another
want it.
good thing with that is with the rise of online gaming.
Mhm.
That's where something, because how many people, it's like I've had the bulk, all of my gaming now is done online. I don't even have a in-face group anymore.
What happened to your Sunday night game?
Oh man, I axed that a long time ago.
Oh,
We're not talking about that on the air. No. That wowould be really good if you're getting a new group of people together in a new group, even if it's face to face. There I can see it definitely be it, because if you don't know somebody from Adam, it's like, something like that I think is really good. But I always have pre-game discussions and stuff. It's like it's really good to have that, like not just a session 0, but a session get together and let's get to know each other, especially if you can do it in person.
I was going to bring up something Ann mentioned just now. Usually when you sign up nowadays for conventions, you end up going through a site called Tabletop Events. That seems to be ubiquitous, for the exception of maybe Gamehole and things like that. And
Gamehole uses them too, I think.
Oh, okay.
I thought they did.
You have the opportunity to reach out to your players and do and have like appended documents and things like that. There is a great opportunity to utilize that mechanic to say, just very simply, hey, if you have a situation or a theme that you would prefer to avoid, sing out right here to me in an email, and that could start that dialogue without the embarrassment component that you were bringing.
Not even the email, man. You could work that into have it be an optional part, but it still have it be a part of the registration, where it could be completely anonymous that way. Even
that particular mechanic would address the thing that she was bringing up really nicely, I think.
Oh yeah, totally. Great. I agree. Yeah, that's a great idea right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the important part that all of this brings to the table is this idea of having more context and understanding of what's potentially going to be a problem for the players and what kind of game you want to play together.
Yep.
Because it's not my game, it's the game that we're all doing together, and we all want to have fun. And I don't want to make somebody upset as a dungeon master, and I don't want a player to make another player upset either.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we would share all these results out from a survey as a group or fill it out as a group or something like that. That might be feasible if you're playing with people who really knew each other and maybe you were trying to push some boundaries. If I was running a cult campaign, I might actually use something like that as part of setting up the game. But I think, being able to just, like we were talking about earlier, make sure that we're creating the best possible environment to have fun in is a great tool to have it available for that. So
yeah.
And strictly just from a gaming standpoint, if you want to have the best game you can, that's where the discussion between everybody that's going to be in the game, I always stress that so much. It's like, get to know people and know your group, because that leads to way better role playing, period.
And if you're playing with people who you've played with for 30 or 40 years, that's very different than if you're starting a campaign up for people who you've never met before at the public library.
Yeah.
Explain me, looking at a game, if I'm running 5e, but then I want to play Cthulhu. What am I going to do? Do the players also need to say, hey, understand the type of game that they're getting into, and
That's
what
true.
could trigger them. Okay. I mean, so,
And Cthulhu, like D&D, has a wide gamut of how you can run it. I mean, if you're playing in a game driven by Alan Moore's vision of Cthulhu, it's going to be very different than if you're doing a Lovecraftian style of Cthulhu.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Great discussion on this, everyone. Let's lighten it up a little bit. That was fantastic. I'm really glad that I decided to put that out there, and I'm glad that you all were so forthcoming with suggestions and comments and what you've done. I'm plus there were some great comments from from everyone in the audience watching too as well. All right, this one's easy. All right, how about this? Give me one from the past and one from the present. Someone who you want at your game table. I say past, someone who is past and someone from the present that you would want at your game table. How about you, Anna?
Well, from the past, I would like to play with. I think Dave Arneson is
Okay.
someone I would love to see. He at the player, so to speak, because Gary had talked about his games and so on and so forth much more. So I have a little bit of at least some sort of idea of what. But Dave Arneson to me is very much a mystery person. So that's someone that will be very, very interesting that way. And when it comes to kind of people now, I think that Roger E. Moore is someone I'm very, very interested in. And now the cool thing is I'm Facebook friends with now. So I realize somehow I'm going
One
to
step closer.
make the kind of, how do I write this in a message and send it saying that can we somehow whatever. Yeah. So that's someone that, because he knows so much and he was like the editor-in-chief for Dragon and wrote, so I read a lot of interesting stuff.
What a great pick, Anna.
Yeah.
And to interject, Anna, there is a they just finished up a documentary about Arneson and the evolution of his group. And
yes,
a
I
bunch
saw
of it.
the trailer.
Did you see that?
It. Yeah, I saw
You
the trailer.
watch,
for it.
yeah, you should watch it. It is
Yep.
pretty good.
Yep.
Are you
Carlos.
talking about Secrets of Blackmore, Will,
Yeah.
or a different one?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that one. Yeah, Secrets of Blackmore. I couldn't remember. I wanted to say In the Basement, but that's the upcoming thing. So that's kind
Well,
of
he's not dead, but I consider him a figure from the past. I would love to actually have, even though I know he would be incredibly, incredibly challenging as a player. I kind of dig that. I like being pushed as a DM a little bit. So I would love to have Rob Kuntz. As a
Okay.
player.
Wow.
I think Rob would be a great.
Oh
add.
yeah. I've had the pleasure of gaming with him.
Oh man.
Yes,
See,
yeah. He was in LA for like when they had a D&D documentary that derailed like 7 years ago, and he was here for a day, and he had a session with a bunch of us, and that
you're
was
killing
fun.
me, Anna. You're just.
So I can actually, I even have pictures.
Carlos, you can say you know Anna.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. It's like 6
So
degrees
I've actually
of
done
Rob
that,
Kuntz.
and there was a lot of 10-foot pole and poking around, and so it was the old Gygaxian, meaning
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
one step falls, one step wrong, and you're dead. That
Yeah.
was the
And
and we also it was like 12 players, and we eliminated characters as quickly as possible. So you were lucky if you survived for an hour, but that was part of, we knew that because we just wanted to see who could live the longest, and that's how we played it. So
see that, yeah, that's exactly
great.
what I would expect.
Yeah.
And also 6 degrees of Rob Kuntz is definitely Alan. Alan, I think, has the biggest footing with Rob of anybody. But
Yep.
somebody from the present that I would love to game with, I would love to game with Gary Holian, actually.
Oh yeah.
Community.
yes,
I think
is,
Gary would be a great
Yep.
player to have. For those of you who don't know, Gary ran Cannon Fire for a very long time. For its
He
entire
wrote
history,
the
really.
Living Greyhawk
And right, the
Gazetteer.
Greyhawk Gazetteer, he's responsible for that. So he's got a lot of Greyhawk history. I think also just the coup of getting Gary out of his cave would be worth it just for brag points. But
It's going to be worked on shortly, right, Anna?
we I've been working on it, but Gary's difficult to get out. But I so want him to be.
I would love to
interviewed
have him as a part of the community.
Yes. Oh yes,
In
There's-
that
there's
respect.
another
so
one, too.
knowledgeable, and
Yeah.
so he has so much cool ideas, whatever. So yep, definitely.
But quite frankly, other people that I would love to game with. I've gotten to game with Anna and Alan here quite a bit, but having them as a part of my everyday group, man, would be awesome because I just like the way they play the game. I would love to have Anne here as a member of my group too. I mean, playing with her, she's got great ideas, and I love her fresh eye approach to this. I love how soft spoken she is, and yet she conveys a lot of information through that, and she's some cool insights. I'd love to have her as a part of my group too.
You're the crossover
you.
between the 5 years and the 1 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I
I
said,
was getting ready to say the same thing.
I love
Yep.
just her insights in specific
That's
have
awesome.
been really cool to me in this roundtable. I'd love to have you as a part of it, Anne, too.
Great answers. How about
I would like to say my mom.
awesome?
I
There's
just
nothing
want
wrong
my
with
mom to play. I want people in my real life to connect with them in this way. And my mom's a geek,
Well, I just
but she won't do it.
no.
No, I just want my mama to play.
Wow.
I never got my mother to
I'm
play
afraid.
either.
I'm
You
afraid what my
didn't?
mom would do.
Ah,
My dad played with me one time during the height of the Satanic Panic because my stepmother was thinking I was in a cult, and they wanted to find out if I
Shut the
really
door.
was or not. So he was being a spy. I ran him through White Plume Mountain, and he played an illusionist, and I guess I passed the test.
It's so awesome.
That's
anyone
awesome.
anyone in the past? Ann?
nope.
Okay.
So,
It's
nope.
okay.
Mm.
Jimmy, how about you?
No, well, I don't reach back to the past that well, as you can tell. But I've got Ann coming up for the game,
Mhm.
but then I'm going
Yeah.
to point the rest of
Yeah.
y'all, yes, because we've talked about this, and bringing over the grognards. I said it, okay, over to running a game for the group, and beating
Cool.
the crap out of y'all for a while. Have fun with it, okay?
Nice.
So that's what I'd like to do.
How about you, Will?
Well, for the past, and I really I'm kind of mad at the Big Bang Theory on this because I think William Shatner would be awesome.
Yes.
I would love that. just strictly for the entertainment value of it. And for anybody currently, well, of course, I'm going to suck up and say Jay.
I played in Carlos's.
Let's
I played
line
in
them up,
Carlos's
man. Let's line them
fundraiser.
up, Will.
Yeah.
Oh, I got messed up last night. Trust me, we all got messed up last night with Brian
It
DM.
was
He
sad.
kicked
It
the
was
ass.
sad.
Kicked us royally. So thanks. That would be fun. We did kind of we didn't play together, but the crossover event was really cool because when Will ran his, he ran a reverse dungeon. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. They all played monsters. That was cool.
Monsters defending the dungeon.
Yeah, that was super cool. And they all died in the
Dungeon
end.
Keeper.
Oh,
Wait,
that is
Dungeon
awesome! I
Keeper.
want to do that once.
It
Yeah.
was super.
Oh, it's fun. It
Yeah.
was a blast.
I remember there was a computer game where you were supposed to do that.
Dungeon Keeper.
That was-
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Well, they
Yep.
released the TSR released the reverse dungeon. Even
Yeah.
They had-
Yeah.
yeah.
It was super
A 2E
underrated,
book, yeah.
really cool module.
Mhm.
So, Alan, we'll finish it up with you. How about what do you think?
So for players from the past, I kind of went a bit further back to, I guess, Sir Richard Francis Burton, who was a really interesting, real professional explorer, and he was a linguist. He had huge interest in culture and traveling across the world. He discovered, the source of the Nile. He's always been someone who I've sort of been very interested in as a historical figure. So I think it would be really awesome to have somebody like him in a game as a player. And then in terms of contemporary folks who I've loved to game with, Stephen R. Marsh did some contributions to early D&D work. He contributed a lot of the aquatic monsters to Blackmore, and he is an adopter of 5th edition. And I have not played 5th edition yet, and I've been kind of holding out to get into one of his games at the North Texas Convention, with the idea that my first 5th edition experience playing could be with Steve. So he's a great person, and he's very imaginative and has a huge interest in the plains as well as underwater settings and such. So a lot of the conceptualization that he and Gary did together to shape the alignments of D&D as well as to shape the multiverse of D&D really originated with some of his thinking. So I would love to have the chance to play a 5th edition game with Steve that's multiplanar.
Super
Awesome.
cool.
For me, I'm gonna do one of mine, and then Tim is not on tonight, and I'm gonna say one for him. I would like. I don't know. Would Tolkien be good, or would he go, "This is ridiculous"? You know what I mean? This is you're ripping off my world, right? Who knows what he would say? I mean, seriously.
He would have been
JR
into it, I think.
Yeah, that would be cool. Carl Sagan's another one I'd love to play with.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
a good
I love.
pick.
Yeah.
But for Tim, I played when I first time I ever met Tim. I told the story 100 times. His uncle Steve DM'd, and we actually have a Magic Item This Day Uncle Steve's Cure All in there. And then his uncle had passed a little while later on. He only DM'd for me one time, so I think Tim maybe that would be another one I'd like to go back and see what he was about a little bit more playing. But I look at this as like when I go to conventions now and I come out, I'm looking forward to playing in person with everyone who's on here. Definitely. I know that sounds like I'm buttering everyone up, but seriously, I know Alan's hopefully over the holidays you'll be in this area and we'll be able to get together finally and play a game with all the crew from the old school Philly gamers, and then Anna may be here for PAX Unplugged, and then Gary Con will be next year, and then we'll just keep on mixing it up in person playing, which is a cool thing. So I just want the experience of playing with everyone. Whether it's 5e, 1e, 2e, it doesn't matter to me. So although I prefer 1 or 2, I'm just kidding. So yeah,
You
definitely.
blew it, Jay.
I
You know
was a
that,
joke.
right?
It was just
No,
a joke.
you blew it. As in, you were supposed to say Leonard.
I already said
Lecoq.
Leonard once tonight, right? Oh, and
Leonard was on. He just got off because you didn't pick him.
Yeah, I had Leonard. I almost had Leonard in my game. You guys heard the story? Leonard was
No.
going to play in a stream on a Thursday night. This is before he ever came on the show, and then he started nitpicking all the rules I had. Why do you do this? Why do you do that? I was like, oh God. So I was like, this is not going to work. Why do you do initiative that way? I was like, oh.
So you told Leonard Lekofka that he was triggering you as a dungeon
Yeah,
master.
absolutely. I
Yes,
said,
exactly. Yeah.
I just said, Leonard,
Yep.
this may not be for you because, we use 2nd edition specialty priests. I hate them. I was like, it's okay. So it's a good Leonard story.
And
So
then you
you're
got
the
him
man
on the show,
who
so,
turned
yeah.
down Leonard Lecoq.
Yes, I turned down.
Exactly. Yes.
That's
You got
even
him on
better
the
than
show.
I've
playing
turned down
with him.
DM
Yep.
Shane and I've turned down
Yep.
Leonard Lekofka. 2
Wow.
for 2.
Yeah.
So there you
Yep.
go.
Damn
So
it.
any of you
Yep.
have questions for us, Round? I know.
I chose one. I
Sure.
have one.
Go for it.
Let me. So to me, growth is really important. So I try to grow in everything that I do. So what stage are you in growing? I know you guys have been DMing a long time, playing a long time. So like, what are you currently working on in your growth cycle
This
as
is
a DM?
Personal or the channel? No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
actually that's kind of hard to
Yeah.
read apart sometimes.
I can
Yeah,
go
exactly.
first because for me it's kind of easy. For me, it is to transition my DMing.
Wow,
Uh-oh.
Oh.
that was a weighty response.
Oh.
Look at
That's
that face.
on Anna's end. Thank God it's not on
Anna.
our end.
No,
Yeah.
we're good.
All right,
Okay.
Anna, we'll try and get back on.
Hold
Hopefully.
that thought, Anna. She's
For
holding.
me, it's a lot of technical things. I've DM'd for
There
a
she go.
million years.
Oh, there's
She's back. You're
Okay,
back, Anna.
I'll let Anna go
Okay,
ahead.
yeah, it's okay. Yeah. So yeah, we got to. Yeah, so for me, it is to transition my DMing from Swedish to English. I've been DMing on and off now for a better part of 8 years, but I still feel like I'm only half as good because I miss my vocabulary and especially.
All right.
Oh no.
It's on her end. So
Now I
Yeah.
got a question for Anna.
Oh,
Does she
damn.
cuss out her players in Swedish? Because
Didn't
that
cuss
would
out
be
the
awesome.
so
she
and
was-
then
so
go ahead.
They wouldn't know
Carlos.
what she's saying,
You're chunking out there, Anna.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we'll see. I can't say anything. Hang
Yeah,
on a
you're
second.
completely freezing up.
Yeah.
I'll see.
It's
I'll
never
close that
happened
one.
before, and you've been on the stream 100 times. That's really
Yep.
crazy.
Yeah, this is see. I can see things in Zoom work, so I can hear you. Do
Okay.
you hear me again?
Yeah, we're hearing you now. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
you're
yeah.
good.
Yeah, so yeah, for me it was transition from English to for Swedish to English and to be able to convey all the feelings, because feelings and humor and stuff like that,
Mhm.
that's the hardest thing ever.
Oh,
Meaning how
definitely.
angry are you and is something funny and so on. That's the hardest thing to do in English and
Mhm.
in a foreign language that you're not born with. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm really, because I want to feel as at home running games in English as I used to be in Swedish. And that's really, really tough. But I know I'm kind of too much of a perfectionist, I guess. But it's
No, it's
kind of
okay.
for me, it's really important to get there, so to speak.
Excellent. Go ahead, Carlos.
I was going to say, for me, it's a lot of technical things. I've been DMing a million years, but as a publisher, doing Castle Entertainment stuff, actually coming out with modules that people can buy, I find that I wear a lot of hats that I don't wear as a DM. And for example, my mapping is a work in progress. I'm constantly trying to upgrade my game as far as being a mapper, a cartographer. I'm very primitive
I'll help you.
still like that, and it's stuff that I need to work on. I need to work on things like when I do my Twitch game, week to week you see an evolution as far as the technical side of it, how I present things as far as that goes. So I find that now as a publisher, I'm trying to convey the experience that you see from my games when you're around the table into actually the written form. I've never really had a problem with the prose part of it, but it's the other stuff like the cartography and things like that that I'm trying to improve on from a moment to moment. My evolution as a publisher.
Very, very cool. How about you, Jimmy?
Most of it, I guess, with the streaming side, I'm the technical guy and have access to this stuff, and so it was easy for me to flow right into this and put it together. And there's always something new, and watching the other channels, then you try out and you play with and you bring in, and then the extra tools that you'll tweak those, you tweak overlays. That takes care of itself. I'll be honest with you. It may sound weird, but it's there. You see it. You can make your simple changes and you move on and you run it. For me, though, it's been the lifestyle of taking this on, and I wasn't planning when I first bought the Fantasy Grounds license for our tabletop game that I was going to be running 4 sessions inside a month. And I was like, it just took a life of its own. And I thoroughly enjoy this. And so it impacting what I do and, with the wife and all that, so we're going through some changes now, being empty nesters and trying to mold this so I can enjoy this more. So there's career changes going to be happening here. There's things that we're going to be taking on to, because we're now at that next stage of who we are. And so that's where I'm seeing change and growing is what's going to be happening to me personally and with my family and what I'm doing. So
it does take a life of its own.
It did. I haven't caught it yet. It's still right there, right out of my grasp. Get back here. It's all over the place, but I thoroughly enjoy this in the community who I've met over these years here, this group here, plus all the other ones that I reach out to and chat with on and off across the different platforms. Has been wonderful and almost no negativity at all. And you run into a few things, but you let it go, you move on, and you keep looking forward. So
how about you, Will? That was a great answer, Jimmy. I mean, I know with spouses it's a challenge, definitely.
Yeah.
I don't have that problem. So
because of the gaming? Oh no.
No. I misbehaved way before this part of it. I gotta say again, mine's gonna pop up with the streaming stuff, and these are topics that we're definitely like Adam and I. We have a show in the pipes to do for the downroll on this, but mine is timing. Role playing around your kitchen table is a completely different beast than streaming. And for somebody who I have, so much a backlog of all this experience on how to do it, which I need to alter and change to this new dynamic. And the one thing is, timing is such a big thing with streaming, whereas when you're just sitting around with your friends around the table cutting up, it's not. You can take a 15-minute bent about why Bruce Campbell is the best actor ever in America and just have a great time. You can't do that in the streaming. Right. And I do miss that, but it's learning how to make sure my timing is good so that I don't completely lose that part of it that gives you that. Because if it's completely robotic, like my favorite streams to watch are the ones where you can tell that these people are actually friends, because it just bleeds through. It completely bleeds through. So not losing that and still keeping things flowing and being entertaining and being an end product that somebody, if they tune in, would go, hey, this is kind of cool. I would like to watch this. So I've been, because how long have I been streaming now, Jay?
You came on like a month before me, I think. So 18
Yeah,
months.
roughly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
Will said something, and I just lost my train of thought on that. That was very important. I had this problem 6 months ago with some of my players who said we weren't bullshitting enough, to put it bluntly. So if you scroll down on my front page, you will see a tab that says Real Life D&D Table Gaming, and there's a disclaimer on there. We may just stop playing and start talking about Animal House, or you know what I mean. We'll have discussions on, and it may happen during a game because that's what happens in a real game.
Yeah.
So we have that disclaimer that that's going to happen in our games, and we always have these crazy discussions about stuff. So that was a great point, Will. That's been
and I don't want to lose that. That's the tricky part. You want to keep that in at the same time, but you want the show must go on. You know
absolutely.
what I mean?
Our show's going to go on our terms, and that's what we decided. So,
something that Jimmy said, I kind of want to hit earlier, that I think is really cool, and has experience, I know, with this as well. Castle Entertainment would not exist if it weren't for my wife. She does all the patron stuff. She's the one who sets up. She created our website. She is the power behind the throne, so to speak. All I do is, what she does is she handles all the administrative stuff so that I can create content. If it was not for her, none of this would exist. So I think it's really, really important to have your significant other, spouse, whatever, partner, be involved in what you're doing to some degree. And I know from my particular standpoint, I couldn't do any of it if it wasn't for her. She is the biggest boon. And anytime you guys ever read a Castle Entertainment project, you got to remember, even though my name is on the front of it, hers is really, really the unspoken driving force behind what I do.
And it's so awesome that you have that.
She's so friendly and awesome in person too.
And you said her sister's married, right?
And lives in Australia.
Will, I put your name out there a couple times. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I just got one of those personalities kind of rub people the wrong way.
And let's go to Alan to finish this up.
I think it's a very interesting question to ask, I think it was great to be able to hear all of your responses, because it gave me some time to think actually about it a little bit, which was nice. But I think I'm probably working more about being intentional about being open to new experiences like 5th edition or like streaming as a platform, because it's certainly nothing I had any experience with before this year at all, and I still don't have very much at all with it. And then also trying to maybe collaborate more and be able to share and give back more to the community. I'm in the process of starting up a Greyhawk campaign that may have as many as 20 players here locally in town, and almost all of them are people I don't know. They're all from the Wichita local gaming environment. I put it up on Facebook, and I put a little survey out there to get a little information about how much experience they had with 1st edition or with Greyhawk and what they like to explore as players and things. But I think it's important to be able to share back to the community, and I think that's part of how we game. To bring people in, new players.
And I agree 100%. Alan, why don't you talk about what I just put up on the screen, which ties right into that?
Oh, sure. So one of the folks who was pretty heavily involved very much on the publishing as well as production, layout, editing, game design side of things in the old school community is a guy by the name of Jim Kramer. And he has his own publishing company, Usherwood Publications, Usherwood Adventures. And he's been wrestling with his 3rd bout of brain cancer. And it's not going well at the moment. But we had a group of folks over at the Knights and Knaves Ale House, which is where the sort of the the think tank on some level, where Osric kind of came from. And Jim did all the layout for Osric when it was first published. He also laid out the Knox Bell magazine. He laid out Jeff Talanian's Astonishing Swordsman and Sorcerer RPG, the first edition of that. So he's been, a lot of the old school community know his work, even if they may not know his name. So we got a group of folks together and put together this project we called Saving Throw. And it's a fundraiser for him and for his family. And it's currently available in PDF. We just released it Sunday last week. And a print edition is coming soon. But all the proceeds, we donated all of our time and talent to it. There's about 9 or 10 folks who contributed to it in various forms. And all the proceeds for it go directly to Jim and to his family. So
where can you find it?
You can get it on DriveThru RPG. Last week it got as high as the #3 best seller on the site. I think it was down to number 4 or 5 when I looked yesterday. I don't think I've looked today. It's $13 for the PDF, and then that'll credit toward a print purchase when that option becomes available too. And Guy Fullerton, who's the one he and Ron Redmond were spearheading this as a project team and leading the coordination and public, layout and all that work for it. They'll have they're working on the proofs for the physical book product. So there's probably going to be a hardcover version as well as a paperback version of it soon.
And there's great content, and I picked it up. It's really worthwhile. So I think $13, it's a no-brainer for everyone. So I just wanted to tie that in with what Alan was saying about giving back, and this is a great cause. So if you get a chance, go on and do that for this cause, please. So
one of the cool things about our community is the way that we have a very tight-knit community as far as charity goes. Jay, I know that you did a charity stream that absolutely was a huge success.
Thank you.
I myself have had a charity stream. This group, actually, we do a lot for people we think outside of ourselves, and I think that that's one of the powers of D&D, is it's allowed us to create connections and has allowed us to realize that, what, we are all affect each other in the world. We don't live in a vacuum, and I think it's really cool that we have the ability to do things for other people. And I think you sell yourself short as far as what you give back to the community, Alan, with your website that has been a huge resource for years, and Curious Quill, your blog, which I visit regularly. I mean, you do a lot for the community as it is.
Well, thanks.
I'm going to answer Ann's question, which I think was a fantastic question, by the way. This is a great one. And then I'm asking, can everyone run a little late? Is you guys okay? All right, because this is going fantastically. Is that a word? I don't know. All right.
It is now.
Growth. 38 years I played with my group in our little cubby, and we didn't participate in anything outside of that world. No Living Greyhawk, nothing. And then I said to myself, that's it. I've wanted to do this for a long time. And that's when the streaming came on, and that has led to me meeting all of you, me getting involved on Facebook, me getting involved on Discord, me writing again, me writing for Earth Journal, me collaborating with Carlos on a joint adventure that we coordinated and did at Gen Con, and hopefully we get to do more stuff like that. The fundraising events, all that, and I think it's really it's changed my game too. My prep work has gone up for each game, because now I have to worry about my tabletop, the stream itself. The content has to be good. It's a lot, but it's actually enriched everything that we're doing in our campaign. Our campaign has more richness to it. So I think I continue to grow. I want to just continue to grow what I'm doing, and just as Anna says, slowly go up that slope. Not like this straight up, but slowly up the slope. And that's my answer to that question. So fantastic one, and thank you.
I'll
All right.
answer it too.
Yes.
I was going to say, Anne's got
Please.
an answer.
Yeah. So I've been DMing a year, and the first 10 months I wrote everything. Like, everything was written. I had elaborate stuff on the table. I would make the terrain and the miniatures, and we do all this. And we're only playing once a month, so I could do that. And then I realized that my whole life was this. So 3 months ago, I was like, got to stop that. And so now I'm trying to build on the fly and make story on the fly. And that's been really hard for me. I like everything to be like kind of planned and know what I'm going to do. My world, I definitely spend a lot of time on my world and who would be in the town and what all that would be. But I'm trying to let go of mapping it out, and they're having more fun because when I was, direct, kind of, it's a direction. If you put terrain on the table, they're going to follow that path. And so that's where I've been working on.
Awesome. All good answers. So I'm not going to call out anyone, but there's 5 other people who haven't asked a question. Does anyone else up here have a question? I know we had some in the audience I can go to.
I think you should go to the audience, Jay. They're the ones.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. All right. So we had a question about Rox asked it, how you handle a situation where you have to go on the fly that Ann just said. So how often does that come up, and how do you handle those situations where your players go completely off the course? Anyone start that up?
Well, for me, I can tell you this. I mentioned before that my view of my own DMing style is I'm the universe. I'm the world at large. Okay, they make moves. I react to whatever they do. That has allowed me to be very flexible with my DMing style. Basically, I just look at it in terms of, well, what would happen? What would happen if they did something like that? And I find that in my own continuum, I set up at the beginning. I know the layout of the world well enough that they really can't surprise me too much. But if they do surprise me, then it's just a reality rule. It's okay. Well, this is how the universe would react to what you do.
Good answer. And once again, streaming throws a wrench into everything.
Yeah.
On that end. Yeah.
I can't just kill the characters all the time like I want to.
Oh, I do.
There you go.
They go off kilter. That's the running joke on my streams and through some of the stuff is that I just kill them off.
So I need a backup character.
Yeah. No, you're very
Yes.
true. Streaming makes it with the consistency that you're looking for. And the engagement and all that, I find myself, I am a much more giving DM, even though the joke is I do kill. But there has been a time or two that a character maybe has gone a little off. They've definitely gone off the tracks here, and they're now, performing or doing things that's out of the game. And yeah, I have killed a few of them. And so,
yeah,
it wakes
that goes
up.
back to that balance thing that I was
DM's
talking about.
crushing fist, it's called.
Yeah.
I want to kill, but when should I kill?
And there's no remorse. Oops, it's the game.
Our deaths have
how I
gone
deal with
down because we all have this interaction with cheering with the audience, right? And that can save characters now. So I'll give you an example. Last Thursday night, we had a frog.
You mean like Tinkerbell?
What's that?
You mean like Tinkerbell? The audience claps and the character comes back to life?
This is seriously. This is the wonders of interaction with the audience. So we had a froggy-moth with I use my Murlocs because I love the Murlocs. Even though it was, what the hell's that? The whale monster. So I had a froggy-moth and a critical hit of 20, which is swallowed, right? And plus my critical hit table was 15 to 150 damage, could triple. All right. But good old Lord Grendelwolf Gitano cheered enough to give the person a special hero point, made it only a 19. There you go. So they rolled, the froggy-moth rolled 19, still did 5 to 50, didn't swallow. That character was dead, had 27 hit points left. That character was dead to rights. The audience did a save. So I noticed that our deaths have gone down because of the interaction with the audience. Now, is that a good or bad thing? Just depends, right, on your game. But it's a different thing it's kind of cool. And like I said, you had to deny. Yeah, Grendel just said I denied the DM a kill, which is okay, but that's a change, and it's another thing I had to adjust to. But I'm not beyond that kind of change.
I just want everybody in the audience to know I have such a reputation as a killer DM. I want you to listen to these guys, all right?
No, he's
No
not. I've
remorse.
gone through 2 adventures and haven't taken a single point of damage.
Yes, and his characters never get hit in my game.
Exactly, I never got hit.
I finally hit Anna in the charity event that I did.
Yes, exactly.
Finally.
Then you did, yeah. But the 2 first ones, then no. That was amazing. Yeah.
Surprised you didn't get death threats.
Everyone,
Carlos.
half the other ones, they got beaten to death or near death, and didn't got a single point in damage.
I never said I didn't, Jimmy. I never said I didn't.
Okay. How dare you? So.
Yeah.
So would anyone like to finish up that discussion topic? I think we covered that one pretty well. That's
because I think that's pretty much what we all do.
Yeah.
It's covered. I got a fun question.
Go for it.
Excluding Dungeons and Dragons, what is, as a DM, your favorite system?
Cool.
Marvel superheroes, original face rep.
And look at that. Will's gonna start a Marvel game soon.
That's first, last, and always.
Awesome.
That is awesome stuff.
Although the only other game I've played at a convention besides that is Top Secret First Edition, which I absolutely adore too.
Yes, that was so much fun. Yep.
And how about you?
I've only played this. I played
Really?
Call of Cthulhu for 2 hours, though, but that was fun.
Were you a board game player too?
Yeah, well, if I was going to say a video game I've been playing is Ni no Kuni too.
Okay. Cool.
I've been enjoying
There you go. That works.
Yeah.
Alan, how about you?
My favorite to run is a DM. Some of my other favorite games I haven't actually DM'd, but I guess probably have to go back to Vampire.
The Masquerade.
Yeah, so
It could be one that you've played. I mean, that's fine too.
Yeah, I mean, I've played some really awesome games across Ars Magica, Vampire, Fading Suns, Cult,
Awesome question.
Star Wars, Blue Planet, all that stuff. But I think from a DM point of view, I'd probably have to go with Vampire. My old roommate and I ran a really fun Vampire game in the 90s set in our hometown. And a lot of the college professors that we didn't like became vampires, and we're oppressing the players.
Oh, I also have to give a shout out for In Nomine. I love In Nomine.
Excellent. Jimmy, how about you?
So dual questionnaires, running it, everything that's on the channel. So the 5e, I've enjoyed the Savage Worlds. Getting, I should probably harass Chuck and Baboonski. I see him sitting on there, to get a CNC game back on the channel. But one of this, back when I first came back into the systems and playing the games, I got introduced for a brief amount of time to Earth Dawn.
Yep,
and I love that system and that setup. I wish we could get it back somehow and bring it in, because I was enthralled with that. Seriously enthralled.
Yeah, people who like Earth Dawn really like
Unlike
Earth Dawn.
Shadowrun.
It's either people you hear it's like I never played it, or if they played it like, oh, it's so cool. I've never played it.
I enjoyed it.
Did you
For me, it will be something I played a couple of times at a convention, and then I tried it out with a couple of friends just to test it, and that was Fate. And it was so interesting because it was so story driven. It was no difficult rules. It was just one mechanism basically, and just carry on. And it was scene based, and you just went with it. And it was a completely different experience from D&D, and it kind of blew me away. And was like, wow, this is so cool. And that was that was the first for me. And I've been playing for over 30 years, and all of a sudden I sit down and the game functions completely different from what I was used to, and that was kind of really, really cool. So then and there, the first time I played it, I was like, I want to run Greyhawk campaigns this way, but then I realized that maybe I'm not sure if it works or whatever. But I'm really intrigued by Fate. Yeah,
cool.
The Fate system. Yeah.
And for me, and we've streamed it once, 2 weeks worth, and that was almost a year ago. We did BattleTech MechWarrior. We always loved that game. And getting back even further, Aftermath, one of Tim's favorite ones, the GM as well. And that's an old Facet game. That's ancient, but it's a cool
Aftermath.
post-apocalyptic.
That's fantasy
Yeah,
gamers.
FGU.
Oh, FGU. I'm sorry.
FGU.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, FGU. And there was only like 4 or 5 publications of it, but it was cool because it was post-apocalyptic before there was The Walking Dead and all that, you know. So pretty neat stuff.
I think you can get that again. I think FGU.
I have it all, man. Tim has it
Yeah.
all. I have it all. But it's just, you know, time. Time's another thing. How much time do you have? You know, that's what you said. D&D. We're on a roll with D&D. Great question, Will.
Well, I'll answer mine. Yeah, Top Secret, but not the original. SI. Top Secret SI.
Okay.
I absolutely love that system. And you want to talk about being brutal. I was always absolutely 100% brutal to the characters. I killed so many characters running that game.
Well,
And that was and the reason for that is because it's a modern game. Okay,
Yeah.
so you got guns and cars and the real world in which we live and all this different stuff. And I didn't, if it was something that you wouldn't do in the normal world, or this is what the normal world's repercussion would be, that happened, you know. And you know, you get a bunch of guys who are just used to playing D&D, you know, going around doing different stuff, like, you know, going intimidating some shop owner, and you just tend to linger in the store for 15-20 minutes doing it. Well, the cops show up, you know, because some concerned citizens like, did you see what's going on in there? That poor man's getting shook down by those guys.
You know, Will, my personal experience, my life experience, I don't know how many people know this, but I actually worked at NSA for a year and a half.
There
and
you go.
I found out that I found that the SI experience reflects more like an action movie, but the first edition reflects more like what I actually saw. So that's I guess that's why I like that mine better.
Mine's better.
Have you checked out checked out the new version, Will? The Top Secret
I
New
saw,
World Order?
yeah, from the new TSR. I saw that.
Yeah.
Rasmussen's. Tell you the truth, I have.
Yeah, Merle and Alan Hammock both did the development work for it, just like the original.
Yeah, I saw that, and no, I have not as of yet.
Time to go back to Wacko World. Wasn't that the big module that was in one of the Dragon magazines?
Yep.
Wacko, cool stuff.
We
I got one.
It also publishes a 1E Top Secret module as well. So
there you go.
Here we go. I'm going to ask another one that is a big one. It's from the audience. Dragon Pink. What do you think of the Matthew Mercer effect? Okay, and I'd like to hear you, since you're the newest DM. And then
But I've never watched Critical Role.
Okay.
I am. First of all, I think it's good to have more people who are into D&D, and he's definitely brought that to. Well, Critical Role has. They have brought that to the forefront, and I think more people who are geeky, more people who value. I don't know. I feel like the geek population values differences, and so having a place in the world and having more people be popular, I think, is good. But I've never really been into things that are popular. Saying that,
good
that's
question.
why I
Good
like
answer.
Critical Role.
When are you going to stop playing D&D?
Yeah, no, it's all popular. That's a good question. That's
It
right.
is popular. When I started, it wasn't. But so, like, watching someone who's really popular, like, I don't listen to music that's really popular. I don't, I want to support the things that are not as popular.
Okay. Anna, how about you?
Well, it's kind of I'm having played D&D so long from when it was not being cool at all. And the funny thing is, for me, when we started playing, it was so obscure, no one else did it. So we didn't even understand it was not cool, so to speak. So we had no clue the first 10 years. And then afterwards, I realized, oh, it's not cool to play. But then I played too long too, so I just loved it. And then I was established enough in my life anyway, so I didn't care what people were thinking. So we just carried on, and also this kind of anti role-playing game thing never took off in Sweden the way it did in America. We read about and saw the from a distance the horror, the demonization of D&D and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
like
you
that.
guys set the standard. You guys created cult. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Meaning, yeah, the
Right?
Swedish games were way worse that way. Meaning we have no, but we the most liberal country on the planet, so we have no things like that. You trigger everybody. That was our kind of objective, so to speak, when we did games. So that was kind of terrible. And then all of a sudden, now it's cool. But to me, it's such an awesome revenge in a way, because everything that I thought was passionate and cool and fantastic when I was a teenager living in a small town in Sweden and people were just laughing at or simply ignored, I realized that I've been right the whole time, kind of feeling, and that is it feels wonderful to be vindicated in this department too. And I've had a very successful life in so many ways otherwise, so I can never complain at all about anything. But despite that, this to be vindicated in this little detail too is kind of awesome. Now D&D kind of rules the cultural world in a way that no one understood before and could even imagine. Meaning you make movies, they people have been, cultural heroes and influencing the world in so many different ways. It's just amazing, and it's now seen as something mainstream.
Well, Carlos, what do you think about it?
Well, I don't know Matthew at all, and much like Anna, I've never watched even a moment of Critical Role. However, high tide floats all boats. I think it's great that
True.
he's out there doing
Yeah.
whatever. I don't think that if my show wouldn't exist, because were it not for him, it certainly would be different. I think, because I think even people like myself who have never watched it are tangentially influenced by what he's done. He's legitimized the whole stream D&D thing. So yeah, absolutely. I think it's great that he's out there doing whatever, and I think it's always great to support someone else's creative enterprise. So I really don't have an opinion upon the man himself for what
Same
his
here. I've
product,
never-
because I've never seen it, but
I've seen
I
like
do
one
think
episode,
it's
but
good
that's
to have it out there.
Jimmy, what do you think
I
he's
think
done for you, or anything, or any effect, or?
Who you asked? Did you say me?
Yeah.
Oh, you broke up. It was
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, I was like,
I'm sorry.
I was hoping someone else was going to speak. That wasn't me.
Yeah.
So I agree with all the comments that the rise in the popularity, I think, can correlate to some of what they do, and definitely have brought to the gaming platform. My concern, and what I have seen in some of the times, though, and it's come across the channel, and I'm not sure if Neidhart or any of those got it, was that we'll have had a viewer from time to time will come on to watch the show and then go, "Oh my God, this isn't Critical Role. This is crap," and drop off. And the few other times that I've run into somebody that believe I spent over 10 years and met my wife in the film business. And spent a good bit of time in LA. I know what's going on over there and what they do for this show, and to tell somebody that there is a script there and that they have guidelines and things that they have to hit for this show throws people will go into meltdown mode on this show. And I was like, take a step back and look at what they're doing. It is a show, and there is a purpose to that show. And they are not doing it they're having fun with it, but there is some other things that are going on in the background of why they do what they're doing. And if you accept that, then you understand that platform and what they're doing. And I know it's completely unpopular, but I'm coming from another side of the viewpoint.
WWE.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so could be.
That's what I heard.
But,
we're all showmen. We're all
showmen. They're all they're voice actors.
Yeah.
They came together with a concept, and they brought this together, and they created this vision. And it is very applicable when you saw what they did with their Kickstarter. And the money that they raised to now take this into the cartoon mode, and the whole merchandise, all the stuff that they've got going on in this huge world that is created, and we love it. And people give to you. Watch that channel, and I have seen just a couple episodes. I have stuck through it all, but just the amount of money that is just flowing in there that people are giving, enjoying their show, and they're supporting it that way. But to tell them that, oh my God, this is completely a true version, a honest game of D&D. Yeah, you say that, oh boy, and I know I'll get flamed out on it.
No.
I will.
I think
There will be some.
Yeah.
You know.
No,
What you
I
said,
think
though,
you're
there's
spot
a
on.
part, there's
Yeah.
a part of that I would like to mention, and Anne hit on it earlier too. The expectation that and she said that in the chat, by the way, the expectations that all streamers will be like Critical Role is real, because I know Jake was telling me a story about a situation
on the plane.
Yeah, that hit him.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's amazing.
It's also it's my players too. Some of my players watch Critical Role, and that's the player that needed a therapist to come in and work out some things with her.
The beauty of it is in 10 years it won't matter.
Well, I mean, wait, let me say,
because people all get used to it, and they'll start be gaming in there, and they'll be gaming D&D, and then they'll start to realize what real D&D is, and then what the difference of a show is, and eventually they'll know that. So sorry, Ann, didn't mean to cut you off with that.
it's okay, because I kind of said that wrong, but she's the one that needed the character to come in as a therapist.
Got it. Okay.
I have liked it because they brought the role playing to the game. I think there has been a viewpoint to see this extra part of the game that takes place, because I am now changing some of my DMing to correlate to that role playing. When I first started off, I was running straight through the module, and that's how you played it out. And now I'm reeling that back. Now I'm favoring more of the milestone input and letting these games evolve a little bit differently and come off that script. And I think they're one of the major contributors to that, in my opinion. So,
Alan, do you have an input on this?
No, I have no experience with Critical Role. I know it exists. I heard about the Kickstarter when it happened. It sounds like, based on what all you guys are describing for it, that it sort of really is foundational maybe to the whole streaming platform from an innovation point of view, and maybe a marketing point of view for it. So it kind of strikes me as a little bit like the way Wolfgang Bauer created the open design process before Kickstarter existed, and he had patrons, before there was Patreon and stuff. But no, I don't know anything about it. He seems like a really nice guy, from what I understand. But
yes, now I'm going to get really flamed here. Right, number one. If anyone saw Matthew Mercer put down this big winter board of a map he did, and he said how proud he was of it, and then I, in response, put up one of my maps, right, Will, afterwards, and said, "Hey, I'm proud of this too," and it was like, so I kind of flamed him on his tabletop mapping stuff, because we all know that Dwarven Forge does all their work, so he's kind of going Hollywood too. And number two, Critical Role comes on right when we're on Thursday nights, and before the show starts, they must be checking other shows, because the last 2 weeks I've had views from Critical Role on my show on the yes, so they're actually peeping in on this. So maybe they're looking for me for innovation. I doubt that.
There you go, baby.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Frank,
But
stick with that.
Stick with that. Go big, man.
Yeah.
Go big. Go big.
Frank would talk to you about that. He has views about that as well. They're definitely watching all of us.
Yeah, and it's all.
I would say that legitimizes you to some degree, though, wouldn't you say? I mean, don't you feel like that if they're looking at you?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, wow, because you can go right, analytics on Twitch are good. So, you can really look and see the top 3 other channels that have watched you. And like the last 2 weeks, Critical Role has had a couple views. I'm like, well, holy So, I mean, I just think it's just that they're messing around looking on before their show starts. So
very few people watch me. I think I'm probably the least.
Yes.
Well,
I do.
Yeah.
Personally, I think Critical Role is awesome.
It
Look
is
at all those
fun.
crickets.
It's
now,
fun.
this is the reason I think it's awesome. It's like
fun.
it's a show, and you go and you watch it, you get entertained. That's great. And like Carla was just saying, it's like the high tide rises all the boats, right?
Yeah.
So it's like these are just people getting introduced to the hobby. Now, those who really catch the bug, because I've always told people it's like wanting to learn Dungeons and Dragons, it's like, don't worry about it. It's like, even if it's a bad game, that you have,
Yeah.
if you have the right personality to role play, you're going to catch it. You'll catch it because you'll see the potential. You're like, ah. And so this whole thing about the Matt Mercer effect, and it's like the expectations of people for their DMs. Well, yeah, that's just a normal way of going. We've all had that, but just in very smaller doses, because we were talking about influence, who influenced us and what DM influences. It's the same thing.
Absolutely.
And so basically, people will go out and they'll go, because if they caught the bug and they want to go play, they'll start to realize that, hey, not everybody does it this way, and then they'll just learn from it, and then they'll learn how they like to role play and all that. It's all part of the process. Or they'll go, you know what, I like watching it, but I don't want to do it, and then they won't. I mean, I'm as guilty as the next guy when I go through and I watch certain streams, and I'll be like, change to next, and it's like, if this is my big pet peeve when it comes to streaming. If your whole deal is you're trying to see if you can meet the quota of forced laughter per minute off of jokes you're trying to say that are not organically coming up out of the game itself, that's a stream I don't like. And then I will switch off and move on to another one.
Oh, really?
You can have a great stream with a lot of humor, but it comes out from the people. And that's what I say about, you can tell when friends are there, because friends, when they're talking and having a good time, they're going to be cutting up and laughing naturally.
And you
Not,
see that,
not looking at the situations. It's like, okay, this is a good situation where I can make a joke, or this is a good situation where I can make a joke. It's more natural. It's more flowing. Yeah.
I'm just so struck by the fact that D&D become a spectator sport. I thought that it was the worst thing ever to try and convey to people that weren't in on it around the table. When I've been watching at conventions back in the day and been other people's home game, friends who be gaming, even if I knew what they were doing and all the rules and all that, even when I was trying to peek over their shoulders when they played the game, I was so bored that I left after 20 minutes. And I never thought ever in my life that it would see as a phenomena that people will love to come on and watch people play role-playing games. And now I must say that and I think just that, if people like Jujay, Matt Mercer, and a whole bunch of others have actually made D&D into some spectator sport, and I think that is amazing. As a feat itself, I think that's amazing.
It is so.
I also got to say, because the one thing I think that doesn't ever get enough love when it comes to why D&D has gotten as big as it has, I always hear, I'm not going to say that Matthew Mercer and Critical Role don't have an effect, but I think there's two that are seriously overlooked. One, all the people who are getting into power and positions in Hollywood, they are the old grognards that play D&D and they love it, and so they're bringing that sort of stuff up. The other thing is, it's the internet.
Yeah.
You can go on to Roll20 or to Fantasy Grounds, and you can get a group and you can start playing like that.
That's
so if
true.
you were interested, it's like, especially something like Roll20 where it costs you no money. It's like, I'm going to, I've heard all this brouhaha about D&D. Let's go on to this thing, and, a couple of Google searches. Next thing you know, you're in a group and you can go, not for me, or yeah, this is awesome,
Good topics. I know we're running late here, so I'm going to ask one to kind of tie everything together here. All right. What are your hopes for the future? And it could be yourself, your stream, your company, as far as in the relating to the game, obviously. So, Alan, how about you start this one off?
I guess sort of very tactically focused. I'm hoping I will have at least one module finished for Gary Con. So I've been working on them for a while. So trying to get them done.
Excellent. Will, how about you?
I want to get my I'll use the term that everybody will know. I want to get my Rook Roost supplement finished. I finished the first draft, 138 pages.
Wow.
So now I get to start going through and do second draft and revisions. to it. It's going to be called Raven's Rook, but I use
Right.
Rook, so
You're using the
so
Carlos
people will, yeah, so people
methodology.
know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So yeah, I just finished the first draft of all the stuff for it, and so
Awesome.
I'd love to have that finished here sooner than later, but with prep and running so much.
Beautiful. Hey, Ann, how about you? What are your hopes for?
That we continue another year.
There's no doubt about it. No doubt, no doubt about it. You're as you notice, your viewership's going up, right? It's going up.
Oh
it's
yeah,
going up,
no,
it's
I
going
mean
up.
the Maximum Maidens.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
they're
Your
actually
game. Okay.
a lot of us didn't know each other, and now we're becoming good friends.
It's awesome.
And Nightheart Gaming as a whole, you know, we flooded in Houston a couple days ago, and they were all chatting on Slack about, are you okay? What do you need? And just communication has gone up, and it's really been a community just within Nightheart Gaming with the players and DMs. And I just,
That's awesome.
and so, and then Maximum Maidens as well, they go to brunch, they do things together.
And this game creates friendships for life, which is a fantastic thing. Definitely. Anna, what are your hopes for the future?
I tried my best to convert hopes into plans. So my plan is to try and work really hard with my patron. So my plan is in 5 years I want to double the amount of patrons I have now. So I want to have 500 patrons within 5 years. And that means that I can basically work full time and try to then I would have 500 fans who have hired their own cartographer and worked really hard to I have a lot of cool ideas I want to do, and I want to be able to provide that, so to speak, to some really cool ideas with Greyhawk as at the center, so to speak, but some other things that tie into it, but to really kind of make that the best map gaming setting ever in history. That's my plan, to try and keep it that way.
Fantastic.
$5, only $5.
Yeah, but it's so much fun because it's given me now the chance to several months of the year full time to work on it, and I want to be able to do it basically all year round and to really dig it and to dig into it. So that's that's the main plan. I want to do one commission per year to work on something else. That's the goal. One commission a year.
Awesome.
And then the rest of it just work on my patron stuff, because to work for my patrons is actually so much fun. That's doing the hobby and doing it to people that are both super critical, because they get a chance to tell me all through the process what I'm supposed to do, and they also super knowledgeable, meaning they know Greyhawk. A lot of my patrons and people I work with, like Carlos and Alan and Jay, whatever, a lot of you know Greyhawk better than I do, which means that it's wonderful. I have a quality assurance team that is damn dedicated, so to speak, and that's fantastic. But it also, that's one side, but it's also that positive feedback, meaning telling me, keep doing it, this is awesome, and that feedback is fantastic. When you do commission work, you get another form of, you reach out to a much larger audience, and you get a chance to peek into other duck ponds and see how life is there too. And so I love that too, and I don't want to completely abandon it, but it's to work more on my patron stuff. That is the
awesome,
my hope, so to speak, to be able to. Yeah.
I'll save Carlos for last. Jimmy.
And I noticed, Ann, your cat jumped in your lap, and I'm fighting off mine here. So he's trying to jump in mine, and I'm like, yeah, no, and I'm like, stop. He's using his claws. I'm like, stop.
I
know. So for me, it's the channels. I have two, because of the Praetor's Rejects and the Wizards of the Couch channel, and yeah, growing those. But since I've started streaming, I noticed, and the popularity has grown up with the platform. It was 40, 50 channels streaming, and now we've got 200 plus a night. And one of the things why I run into Halloween games is seeing these channels working together. We all have our schedules and all that, but I think to grow and to continue moving forward, what I hope is that there is a commingling, a collaboration between the groups, and coming across and letting each other talk about all the things that we do and the aspects that we bring to the game. That's what I really enjoy, and that's why why I do some of these extra type of games on Halloween, and I'll do something on the Christmas break. of bringing other channels across to raise that stuff, the views up, the view, popularity, so to speak. But
Well, Jimmy, we're
I
attempting
do.
to do a fundraiser in November, and I need someone to go on at 4 a.m.
I just walked right into that one, didn't I?
To make it a 20-hour stream instead of 16.
Yeah, I already did my deal. I didn't have to go on at 4.
And don't forget, I exist between the hours of 7 at night and 7 in the morning.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I'll get back to you, Jay.
Carlos.
Well, first, before I go on with my thing, I want to mention Will keeps bringing up $5 for Anna's Patreon. I got to be honest, if I could back it more than once, I would. Her Patreon is absolutely one of the best bang for your buck patrons you can join, and I do highly encourage everybody out there to join her. She gives you a lot of crazy good content for that $5. So I just want to second what he was saying there. For me, Castle Entertainment is obviously that's my company, and I'm in the midst of trying to grow it right now. And I'm at a weird tipping point right now in which I need to do better for my patron. I need to do better as far as sales to improve the product, because I've kind of tapped out what I can personally do as far as putting money into it myself. I need to take a couple more steps with it in order to improve my product. Things I want to do. I want to hire a professional cartographer. I know that I said that was my own growth thing, but if I need to take the next step, I really want to do that. I want to hire a professional editor. I want to get interior art.
Amen to that.
There's all kinds of things I really want to do to make the products really sing out the way that I think they can. But the Patreon needs to do better. I need to get the products disseminated better. I want, in particular, I'm the guest of honor at GrogCon.
There it is.
Next month at the top, and Jay just put up the module that I've written as a commission for the convention, which is the Porcelain Sword of Queen Ashala, which was named actually by a member of our audience out here, Lord Grendelwald, won the competition.
Nice,
Gitano, and so it's all based around something that he recommended. I absolutely need to grow. If I'm going to take the next step, I don't think I ever want to be a full-time game designer. I don't think that's. I want to keep my day job, but if I really want to make the product sing, my project is improve the Patreon, and grow and start being able to sell more product in order to take that next step.
Great one. And I'm going to go back to Gen Con on this. When I met Jimmy and his lovely wife, and we're walking around hanging out. We went to a weird Cthulhu game for about an hour, and then we said, let's get out of here, because there were it was a great day. But I remember you said something to me. Would you rather be a partner or have 3 sponsors? And you remember? And I was like, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And I really got hung up about 6 months ago on this partnership BS, and now I'm not worried about it anymore. And the weight has gone off of me. I'm just running with the flow, and I'm doing what I want to do, and I'm not worried about that. And it's kind of, I don't know if liberating is the right word, but now we're just going to do the best content we can and just increase it. And we're trying to up the number of shows we have with some things that may be going on. We'll may discuss very shortly. But I'm just like Carlos said, we all get tapped out at a certain point, and then but it's hard to let someone else in as well. So I'm at the point now where I want to just keep on doing what we're doing, but I don't want to get it to the point where I have a second full-time job either, right? Because then you don't enjoy anything. So I want to keep on playing the game I love. Make it next year will be 40 years with our campaign, and just continue to grow at that steady slope up, and that's exactly what I'm just going to keep on concentrating on. And guys, let's do a roundabout on now. We'll talk about what we have going on, Will. So we'll go first and synopsisize it. You can go first now, and then we'll talk about what's going on in our worlds, and then we'll call this a night on the great. Probably each one gets better and better. So good, Will.
Yeah. Oh, to go down the list again. I got a talk show on Mondays. I got a Greyhawk game on Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. I got a Savage Worlds on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. I got a Vampire at 2 p.m. on Saturdays, and soon to be Marvel Superheroes on Saturday mornings. So there you go. Wicked Studios LLC on Twitch. There you go.
Yes, please link it in, Will.
Yeah,
Please,
all right.
everyone, if you're on still and you haven't, please follow everyone who's been on tonight. I appreciate it. Alan, what's going on?
I think really right now the Saving Throw project wrapping up is the big thing that's been consuming my time. So I've been trying to make sure folks are aware of that and that it helps to boost the amount of funds that we can provide to Jim for he and his family. But otherwise, it's working on the finishing up some projects in time for GaryCon and stuff. So I'm working on the Ionic Caverns, which is a level I've play tested. It's past conventions and stuff, and trying to get that wrapped up. And I've got a couple others like that are, maybe I'd get 2 done in time. We'll have to see.
GaryCon, the next convention you will be going to? Is there anything before that?
Yeah. Well, I'm probably going to go to TsunamiCon, which is our local Wichita gaming convention.
Okay.
It's been up and running now for I don't know, maybe like 6 years or so now. And my some of the folks who are interested in the campaign, I'm going to kind of float the idea maybe we have an open table at the convention and introduce people to Greyhawk and some first edition gaming at TsunamiCon and see kind of what happens with that.
That is awesome. When is that?
That is in mid-October, and it's just a 6-hour drive from Dallas, by the way.
Nice. And how about you?
So it's Nightheart Gaming, and Tuesdays I do Tinker Tuesday, which is terrain building and miniature painting. Thursdays we have a online stream that is played every Thursday. Fridays is Maximum Maidens. It's every other Friday, and that's our all-women game. And then there's Dungeons and Dramaturgy on Saturdays. I will say Maximum Maidens is very adult. So hold on to your hats if you decide to join us. And we are celebrating our 1-year anniversary for Maximum Maidens and for Nightheart Gaming.
Very nice.
This Friday, and there will be giveaways all throughout the week from our sponsor.
From Reaper.
From Reaper Miniatures.
Yeah, I see you every Tuesday before we go live.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Nightheart Gaming has a really distinct role on the Reaper. I don't know if you know this, on the Reaper Twitch page, and Ron has promised me, and he hasn't done it still. They're the only go to Reaper Mini. They're the only, they have 1,300 followers. They're following one channel, and it's just Nightheart Gaming. Have you seen that?
Yeah, Frank talks about it all the time. He's like,
You love that
exactly.
every day. He looks at it every day. And he's like, I don't know how long this is going to be last, but I got to see this every day.
Ron promised me last week I'd be on there last Thursday, and I'm still not. Yeah, I'm like, what the heck's going on? So, but that's
you need
awesome.
to talk to Mike or Justin.
Yeah,
Michael or Justin.
I know Ron's really swamped with the next Kickstarter. So
Jay's jealous.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But that's so awesome.
It's that obvious.
Oh boy,
hey, I want to point something out that's cool for someone else.
How gracious of him,
right?
Thank you.
Geez, I'm getting. See,
I know you put us on top of each other too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I have in the it's coming out. I've done the new version of the 598 map, the Flannies map that I've been working on for years. There was a new revision coming out that had the new salt marsh area and stuff that came out like a couple of weeks ago to everyone. And then there is a parchment, like a handout version of it that my patron has had for a month. That one is coming out. I will probably post it tomorrow to everyone. And so that is coming out. But the big thing I'm working on at the moment for my patrons are the 576 map, the grand old version of the Flannies that everybody kind of seen the classic version, the back into the good old days version. And this has been something that I've been kind of, okay, I need to do it because people ask me. But now when I'm actually doing it, it's a lot of fun. And I must say that I'm really drawn back into the old days of Greyhawk, and I've come up with I found some interesting things, and I even need to ask Carlos and Alan about something that was like, oh, how does this work? So that's the huge thing. It's about 20-25% done. And I think that will be a good addition, and it will probably be the base map going forward, so to speak, for a lot of things. So that's the coming, and then there will be some new cool heraldry in there that has never been shown on any other maps before. And my patrons have got the first kind of glimpse. I'm working on the Great Kingdom and all the areas around there right now, because that's the huge thing that changed during the wars and Living Greyhawk campaign and stuff. So I'm really drawn in. So that's the one of the huge thing that is coming this fall. And then
Anything
the other
special in the work for South Province? Because my
yes.
son is running a solo campaign for me,
Yeah,
my 11-year-old,
yeah.
in South Province, and
I'm just looking into Sunday and its provinces and thinking about, because the provinces are main county, but the problem is when you go back to the old, then whole Sunday is a county. So you can't have counties under counties. So then I have to think about so then I have to go back and read both the new sources and the old sources and see if they mention any of that discrepancy. So then I have to decide. So I will probably fall into the fact that I simply take away the county and just call the provinces by name without having titles on them, and that way I can kind of skirt the issue completely, so to speak.
I go crazy, Anna. It's Herculean, all that stuff.
Oh yeah, so there's a lot of these things you have to kind of it's a bit like, oh, should I do it this way, should I do it that way, and so on, and it's, you have to kind of treat the textual sources, and it's like, for instance, I discovered, now I'm going out on a 1-minute rant here, but or tangent, but one, I did Almer. I started out the alphabetic order. That's why, okay, let's start with Almer. That's the worst ever because it kind of disappeared. But then I found out reading the text that Inspa, the city of Inspa, was actually part of Almor when I read the text, but none of the maps actually depicted that. So I realized, what the heck, the text says that, and I'm going to go with it. So and then when I read a little bit later, I found out that the Niron that actually invaded the little town north of it, so to speak, or the city of I forgot what the hell that little city is called now, but
Knurl?
No, exactly. They invaded it. So then all of a sudden I realized why the map was drawn that way. So it's kind of very convoluted. You have to read one through the other. So that's one huge thing that is coming this fall. The other one is Lendor Isles in a way that you'd never seen it before. I just rendered the full resolution of it, and I'm starting to work on it.
Took a day, right, to render it?
Yeah, exactly. It took 24 hours just to render the images of it. And it's Lendor Isles is 100 feet per pixel.
That's
and
insane.
That will be Lendor Isles as you'd never ever seen it before. And now when I had it, I need to work on the first kind of draft version of it on the texturing, and then hand it over to Linda Kafka and see what he will simply discredit, say this needs to be changed, that looks awful and whatever, and my patrons and others to kind of get through the first quality assurance and then go back again. So I think that this is seen as the first draft. There will probably be 2 more before we kind of nail down the terrain good enough, so to speak. So it's interesting because that one has been through its faults and hoops and stuff through the development of Greyhawk over the years too, which is kind of interesting too. So yeah.
Cool.
So those are the 2 big projects, and I have a bunch of smaller ones in the pipeline too that will come later too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Will, I apologize. I was supposed to put that up when you did your final. That's Will's The Mermaid's Blessing is up, his adventure. It's on Drive Through RPG. It's 5e. Check it out, guys. Wicked Studios LLC. It's very nicely done.
Yeah.
So,
The cover. Yeah, no, that's not. It's generic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So,
I'm sorry I took so long, but
oh, you're good, Anna. No, absolutely. So The Mermaid's Blessing. Yeah, Will, if you want to link it, please feel free to do so. Let's go to Carlos.
If you thought Anna took long, all right. Here's what's going on. I've got my monthly Patreon in which I release free character sheets with full art, full mini module, a new spell of the month, a new monster of the month, and a new magic item of the month. I do that every month, so I'm working on that right now.
It's an awesome patron.
Oh, thank you very much.
You
I'm
should
going
thank
to GrogCon, as I mentioned, as guest of honor, and I'm going to run three sessions of the Porcelain Sword of Queen Ashala, which Gaetano, as I mentioned, named. So that was really
Beautiful.
cool. After that, I'm going to Gamehole Con, and I'm going to be running 3 adventures. These modules have already been finished. They are, well, 2 of the 3 have been finished, and they've been printed. One of them is called the Sanguine Labyrinth. For those of you who know the world of Greyhawk, that is actually the Dungeon of Bleeding Walls, which is in the Barren Wastes. It is the first part of a 3-part mega dungeon that I'm making. The second one is called the Forgotten Temple of Forgotten Library of Renette, which deals with the forgotten soul goddess Renette, who was killed by Pyramus and who absorbed her portfolio. That takes place in the Yeomanry. And the third one is called From His Cold Dead Hands, which takes place in the Peninsula and deals with the city of Yotsplot and an ancient evil up in the barbarian lands there.
Oh,
After that, I'm going to GaryCon, and I am going to be running 4 adventures there, one of which is top secret. I won't tell you what it is, but the other ones are as follows. I'm going to be running a finishing my trilogy of gnome adventures, and it's called Squaring the Circle, which actually takes place in a place in Greyhawk, which is near and dear to Jay's heart, which is the county of Ulick. I'm going to be running the sequel to the Marquesa adventures, which is called From Dark Roses Black Thorns Grow. For those of you who know anything,
You make such great titles, Carlos.
Right?
Oh, thank you very much. But that one actually, the title of that gives you a hint onto what I might be doing with that if you know the Slave Lords one. I'm sure an OG like you, Alan, knows exactly what I'm doing with that, but that's another story. And the last one of those I will also keep top secret for those of I don't want to spoil too many surprises. So in total, in the last 3 months, I have written 8 modules, and I've written about 27 different character sheets with full art, mini modules, and unique spells and magic items. So I'm a busy boy right now.
I'd say so.
Awesome.
Oh, and my Twitch campaign that I'm running every Saturday for patrons. So yeah, that
Carlos, you need to run another one with all your artists. That was awesome.
Oh, thank you very much. The way I'm doing this, I'm doing something called the Castle Hawk Chronicles. I should mention that right now. Every month, I'm doing a Castle Hawk Chronicles game, which all takes place in the free city of Greyhawk, and it's a revolving story. For example, the last month was my 3 artist friends, Sarah Dallinger, Amanda Makepeace, and Rachel Quinlan. The next episode of Castle Hawk Chronicles takes off directly after that, featuring characters that have something to do with it, but are not those characters. So it's going to be this long-running campaign, slices of life from different characters in the city. Every month, I'm going to do an alternating patrons and non-patrons. Last time was as I mentioned, those 3 artists who are non-patrons. Next month are going to be people who are involved in my patron.
Cool.
And so they're going to be dealing with some of the fallout out of that. And after that, it will be I'll go back to non-patrons. So you'll see a mix of people from the gaming community, different celebrities, whatever, people that I happen to know, people who haven't joined my Patreon but are just good friends of mine. And then it'll be people that are actually members of the Patreon, because I really want to reward them for giving me their support and help pushing me on with things I love to do.
It's awesome.
So I'm extremely busy right now, trying to push the World of Greyhawk stuff and keep the setting alive, and trying to give the people that are enthusiasts of the setting the things that they want to see. So yeah, I'm a busy bee right now.
Yes, you are, Carlos. You're the busiest out of all of us, I think, man.
Oh wait, one last thing. There is something very, very important. I'm doing also a module for charity in April. And I did that. Jay and Anna and Alan were all parts of that last time. I did 3 sessions of a module called Lost Dog, which went towards the charity I chose was called Red Rover, which helps reunite missing animals with their owners. Well, I'm a huge animal enthusiast, and this year is my favorite charity. It's the one that I actually personally contribute to, which is Cheetah Conservation Fund.
Cool.
I've decided will be that, and so I will be writing the module for that, and I'm also going to be writing the module. Well, not writing, but I'll be releasing the module that Jay and I worked on, which is called Horror in the Ghouls. That should be done right about that same time in the spring.
Awesome. Well, I know all of us here would play in those games for the fundraisers. I know that.
I really, be ready because I'll probably be tapping.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Jimmy, I put up your Wizards of the Couch.
I saw that. What is it?
Yes.
So I have two channels that I'm involved with. We have Praetor's Rejects, which will the doobly doos. We'll put it there in the chat. But that we're streaming D&D. 3 or 4 nights a week. We have our Halloween games that are starting up September the 29th and October the 2nd. We'll be streaming Sundays on this channel and the Wednesday games on the Wizards of the Couch channel. And those will be a full month of Halloween as we're running through the Haunt 1 and Haunt 2 and the release of Haunt 3 as they're still writing it. So we're waiting for that to come out so that we can run it. Yeah, Phil's got to get it done. Wizards of the Couch, we spoke about it a little bit. We've started this initiative up 7 months ago. Casey Rift, owner of Cobalt Con and running the Blackwood Society, Brian Berg of Total Party Kill Games, and Danny Lee Grimes of Delving Wood and a DM through the convention circuit. We've come together and we've put on a show every first and third Mondays of the month. Roundtable discussion. Anna has been on it. I see a few more in here that we will be planning to put on as guests. And we talk about different subjects. And then we have what's called Last Call after we say goodbye to our guests and take a quick 5-minute break. Then we come back on with some type of subject that we discuss, the four of us. I'm not supposed to say anything, but we've got the great Mr. Elmore, I think, is coming on.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
So you didn't hear from me, but that's the first
awesome.
Monday. And if I could say, a bigger artist type of individual is going to be the next show. And I'm going to have to save that one because I'm kind of saw that name and I went, this is going to be really cool. I've also, as a big name, you'll know, and you know the artwork. I probably will tease it out sometime before, and people will know who it is once I start teasing it. But yeah, that's on, like I said, every first and third Mondays. We're still ramping up production of other things to run on the channel, another DM or two to run some other different content. They're talking about a Pathfinder game coming up, and Stephen McFarlane is going to probably run the game for a few people since he's now got a lot more free time on his hands. And then Friday nights I run the Lost Minds group on the Wizards of the Couch. So yeah, plenty going on there. And then yes, I've gone to more conventions this last year than I have my whole life and with this group, and we'll continue. So Gamehole Con is up next, and then we will ramp on over to Gary Con and TsunamiCon's. I've run actually the online stuff. That's how I actually met KC. He reached out 3 years ago, and we started bringing some of the virtual tabletop games to the conventions, and we're still doing that. And I'm not sure if what is up with TsunamiCon. I need to find out, but if we're doing anything for them, to be honest, because we enjoyed that, and that's how I got involved with and meeting him was through that convention. So
yeah, Eric Carl's still the point guy. So
okay, Matt will be running it all. So he just basically tells me my marching orders and when we got to go run a game. So so that is all that we've got going on across the two channels, and hope to see everybody over there and all on these channels too.
Jimmy,
I love the name Wizards of the Couch.
Yeah,
Wizards of the Couch.
Yeah.
Yep,
it's a great icon.
Jimmy, did you link Wizards of the Couch into the chat? Please do that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I would love that.
We are hoping, Jimmy, that
when
we
I
have.
and Anna have to make time to get together at Gamehole Con. I'd like to meet you in person.
Well, so I'm going to actually, because I haven't been there, and I want to go see the whole and understand the paraphernalia and all that, because Mr. Kamer actually has the module that I was introduced to back in 1980. And it was a 1v1. It was a series of games that they did at conventions. It was one-on-one, you versus the DM, and it was the Quest for the Fazelwood. And he actually has a copy of this. He says he's got several in the bag still that it came in. And I remember playing that. That was my first exposure. I lasted maybe 5 minutes, never got out of the courtyard. And it was a money type deal. You know, you paid a couple bucks and whoever got the farthest won the bot. And I'm like, I didn't know what I was doing. And I played that. I was enthralled with it. And that's when I came back after playing that. And my mom, you know, was listening to all this, and she gave me Quag Keep. And I was trying to see if anybody nodded of the old guys.
Quag Keep, yeah.
Quag Keep, baby. And my mom's favorite writer, and she gave me that book. Yep, I've got it it's on my dresser too. And the first written story about Dungeons and Dragons and the setting and all that. And so I've said that to a few people, and they go, it just goes right over them. But you guys got some love there. So there you go.
Old Greyhawk.
Yeah.
I can mention one thing when we talk about Game Hall Con. Me and Alyssa Faden will have a seminar at Game Hall Con, and there's still a few tickets left. I'm checking the website right now. So if you want to and Alyssa Faden, she's fantastic. And so we are going to have a seminar. It's an open ask anything kind of seminar. So yep.
Yeah, we need to get you down to North Texas, because I met her for the first time at Texas this year.
Okay. Yeah, she will be at GaryCon next year. I'm sure she was there. She's been there the last 2 years, and I think she'll be there next year too. So yeah.
Yep.
What a great night. So for what's going on in my world, tomorrow night Mark runs 6 o'clock, 6 to 9 every other Monday, and Old Flames Burn the Hottest, the finale for that. So he's having a little bit of fun with that one. Then we're on Wednesday this week instead of Thursday, because we're going to watch the pathetic Eagles lose to Green Bay Packers on Thursday night. And and then I have a
beat Green Bay. Wood.
I have a back to school night that night too. So we're on Wednesday this week, only this week instead of Thursday. And then next Sunday, our topic, I believe, on Gabbin 64 is going to be humanoids in the Flanace. I think that's what we're going to do. That's a subject we haven't touched.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, thank you. And then we'll be back on a regular schedule. And for me down the road, I'm going to PAX Unplugged out of Philadelphia in December, and I'm going to DM there twice. And then at GaryCon, I like to DM twice, and then the idea is I'm going to have my own seminar with assistance from some of you on technology and streaming in a DM's Roundtable. I think that'll be cool. So I'm going to work on that as well. So that's what's going on in my world, and along with all the other fires that are going all over the place with writing and modules and stuff, and it keeps us all busy. But hopefully everyone loved this talk tonight. I think this was a fantastic discussion.
Thank you for the invite.
Yes,
you're quite
thank you.
welcome. You're quite welcome. Thank you for that follow, Tombstone. This has been a wonderful night of viewers, and I just like I said, I do these every. It looks like it's every 4 months, every 15 to 20 Gabbin shows, which turns out, we usually get 3.5 every month. There's usually a Sunday we miss occasionally. So, yeah, it usually runs about 4 months when we do one. And trying to get some new people. Thank you all for your participation in this and answering your questions. And I know we had some deeper subjects than we normally go into, but I think it was a good thing to talk about it. And so, guys, everyone out there, we'll see you tomorrow night. Mark's on 6 p.m. One last thing, Jimmy. Hopefully, we may have something down the road to raid into you on Mondays. We'll see. There may be something we'll
work it out.
Hopefully, we'll see about that. And Chuck, thank you for the kind words. Thank you, everyone else. And anyone who wants to stick on and chat a little bit afterwards, I'm going to discuss some things. I'm going to pop on my MBA, our first ever sponsor, Miniature Building Authority. When we were nobody, they stuck with us here. So here we go. Everyone have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep.
Nice to meet you all.
Awesome.
Hooray.
Nicely done. That was
We only
fun.
went an hour long. That's cool.
That was fantastic. So awesome.
Thank you.
Didn't even seem.
I took notes, guys. You guys were awesome.
That's cool, Alan.
The pop quiz.
That's great.
I managed not to say anything about your Cleveland shirt that entire time.
Well, it's because you didn't want to seem like, a bad guy.
Yeah.
Did they win today? The Steelers win?
I don't know.
No, they didn't. I don't know. I mean, it's just.
I live in
No, we did
Cleveland right now,
not.
but I'm from Chicago, so I don't have a rooting interest.
Right?
Cleveland's got the win
Remember,
right now.
Pebbles, this is our shtick. We talk over the ending. We always do this. It's kind of our shtick here. Oh, look, it's someone
So
else.
if you're listening, we're all talking about how the Cleveland Browns are
Yes.
really awesome.
No, what we're talking about is how Gary Gygax
Yeah.
Chicago
Oh,
Bears is what we were talking about.
the Pittsburgh fan choking on his fan brag. Hold on. I got to give Pittsburgh some real credit though. They kicked Antonio Brown off the team.
We're not looking so bad now, are we?
I
I'll
thought
agree
it
with
was a
at the
great
beginning.
idea.
Right now that
Okay.
Antonio Brown's the only player in NFL history ever to have his jersey on 3 clearance racks at the same time.
Oh my God.
It's amazing. As soon as the cameras go off, then they switch into sport. Some nerds.
I know.
I know, right?
Walked away from $50 million.
No, seriously, I had a great time. I don't know if Aaron.
See us all tomorrow night.
So did I.
Have a good one.
It was really
Night
cool.
night.
Good night. It was really cool getting